Hokage give me a face. Bleach Chapter 121-140. Chapter 121 _ Able people should do more work. This is incredible. Zibo Heian looked at Zibo Yixin with a calm face that was taken for granted, quickly grabbed Yizan's hand, and asked in a low voice, Yizan, what kind of ecstasy soup did you give my uncle? I have that thing and I won't give it back to my sister. Yizan asked, you think it's possible? Then what happened to him? Such a disgusting name. Zibo Heian still had an unacceptable expression on her face. Just kidding, if you are serious, you will lose. Yizan said casually, I want a vice captain like Xiao Shishu, so I'm not allowed to pretend that guy is a cute girl. Zibo Heian said angrily, can this kind of thing be faked? Xiao Heian, don't be so excited, calm down. Yizan patted Zibo Heian on the shoulder, you can see that Bai Zai is very calm. Don't look at that guy's face, he seems to be very calm, but he can't decide what to think. Zibo Heian said with emotion, I used to be a lively and cheerful child, how did I become so cold? I also don't understand. It's just that the inauguration ceremony of the captain was so lively, and the celebration banquet at night was even more extraordinary. Everyone made up for the regret that they had not even had time to have dinner because of the captain's defection, and it continued until the middle of the night. Even the ice-cold Broken Bee drank too much, pulling Yizan to scold him. What a fuss, a slick tongue, a violent temper. I have to say a lot, and it can be summed up in one sentence. Lord Yi, you actually left me without even saying goodbye, but you said goodbye to this useless guy in front of you. Entrust Master Yushiro to him. Yizan, who was worthless, felt extremely wronged. I'm such a gentle, handsome, and invincible young guy, and the whole corpse and soul world is unique. As for being disliked by you, Yizan helplessly patted the head of the bee, sister, Yi abandoned you to her. Wrong, why don't you follow me in the future and get mad at that guy? This is molesting, it's definitely molesting. Jingle Chunchui, who was drinking Yuhi's face, shouted, Xiaonaneo, look at it, that guy is lying to you girls like this, stay away from him. Stay away. After saying that, he fell on the table and fell asleep. Cut. Yizan gave him a white look, and the muttering of the broken bees in his ears has not stopped, but it has changed from counting leaves Zan to scolding Urahara Kazuki. It's okay to scolding me, after all, it's a girl, and holding it is also sweetheart. Why does Kazuki Urahara blame me for taking your master Gu away? I am wronged. Forget it, it's hard to tell with a drunk person. Yizan shook his head helplessly, put the broken bee on the ground, and covered her with the Captain Yuji. Byakuya, let's have a drink too. Yizan walked towards today's protagonist. He was drunk a lot, and his eyes were a little blurry, but he wasn't drunk. It is said that alcohol is not intoxicating and people are self-intoxicating, and I don't know if Jingle Chunchui and Broken Bee are really drunk or pretend to be drunk. Kuchiki Byakuya didn't say much, just filled the glass. Look at you now, you have a wife, and you are the captain again. You are a big winner in life, thank me, don't you? Thank you. Byakuya Kuchiki nodded, if it wasn't for you, it would not have been so easy for me to marry Faye. Of course, how can I be your eldest brother without a point? What does it feel like to be thanked by Big Bingshan? Yizan felt that only two words could describe it, proud. The consequence of being too complacent is that he missed the flash of light in Bai Zai's eyes. If he saw it, he would definitely sigh with emotion. It turned out that Bai Zai, who was meticulous, would also be scheming. It was also because he didn't notice that, when Bai Zai said, in this case, can I ask you one more thing? He agreed with the enthusiasm of taking care of his younger brother. My brother, if you have anything to help, feel free to speak. Yizan said while patting his chest. Kuchiki Byakuya looked relieved. Rukia. What happened to Rukia? Yizan thought that Rukia had something to do at school when he heard his beginning, was bullied. No, Kuchiki Byakuya shook his head in denial. I mean, Rukia is getting older and older, and it's not a good idea to always live in the 10th division. What's the big deal? Our team doesn't have no girls. During last year's graduation season, Yizan had already hooked up with 3 girls, one of whom was the ponytail that Yizan saved twice, and is now in charge of logistics in the 10th division. She's not the same as those gods of death. Kuchiki Byakuya frowned. Also, Feijun misses her very much. She always said that her sister, who was finally found, can't be seen a few times a year. This time, Yizan couldn't answer. Obviously, Baizai's words were his wife, Rukia's sister, Feijun's idea. At least Kuchiki Byakuya, a big man, should be like himself. He can't think of this. I don't care about this, just talk to Rukia. Yizan shrugged, but he didn't have any feelings of reluctance. The jingling court is so big, it only takes a few minutes for him to walk back and forth, so it's not like he can't see it. She doesn't want to, Kuchiki Byakuya said sullenly, with an almost imperceptible depression in his tone. She said she liked the atmosphere of the 10th division. Maybe your family is too serious. Yizan looked at Kuchiki Byakuya. Although she is Feijun's younger sister, it is not easy to adapt to living in a place with strict hierarchy like yours. In the eyes of the servants, isn't that a poor relative who eats and lives for free and fights the autumn wind? I've discussed with Feijun and I'm going to adopt her. Move so fast. Yizan raised his eyebrows in surprise. It may not be easy, so. Kuchiki Byakuya looked at Yizan with a look of anticipation in his eyes. What about Gao Lengbingchen? Juvenile. You are so special that you are breaking your skills every minute. It's not one thing, is it? Let me help you persuade Rukia to go to Kuchiki's house, and let me help you handle the matter of adopting Rukia. The front one is easy to handle, the back one. I'm not your parents or elders, do you want me to threaten all those elders? Chapter 122-Disobedient Rukia. At that time, Yizan really thought it would be easy to persuade Rukia to join the Kuchiki family, but in fact, your sister. He really wanted to say this to Kuchiki Byakuya, your sister. Your sister is so troublesome. Rukia, the Kuchiki family are the 4 great nobles. Yizan sat down in the corridor, persuading Junyang to stay with Rukia, who refused to move her nest from the 10th division as soon as she was on vacation. She was practicing various movements with the bamboo knife, and she just turned a deaf ear to Yizan's words. I don't want to be a noble, this is the first time I've seen it. Yushiro Shibane looked at Rukia. The Kuchiki family, like mine, are the top nobles in the Soul Realm. What's your dissatisfaction? Even Renji Asani looked at Rukia with an incomprehensible expression. 3 little kids. Yizan listened to their chirping voices, and the man in the room lay on his back on the floor. Fortunately, Bachinliu went to Kenpachi, otherwise I would directly change the number of the 10th team to Jinglingting. The nursery is ready. Brother Yizan, do you think I'm troublesome? Rukia stuck the bamboo knife on the ground with a cry in her voice. Of course not. Yizan sat up with a carp upright, and the first thing he saw was the hostility on Renji Asanjing's face. What did I do? Lao Su is obviously very gentle towards girls. Yizan touched his chin and sighed. It's you, Bai Zai, who asked you to go back. I feel so wronged. I don't want to go. Rukia frowned. It's good here. Then tell him yourself. Yizan sighed again. He is still fighting with the old stubborn people of the Kuimu family for adopting you. You refuse to go back to the Kuimu family. It's a little too disrespectful to him. Then I'll go and stay for a few days, and then come back, like before, can't I? Rukia looked at Yizan eagerly, and waited for him to nod. Girl, I'm not your guardian, Feijun is your sister, It's useless to talk to me. Yizan walked over and patted Rukia's head. Be good. Idiot. Rukia opened his hand, turned and ran away. Yizan. Did I get tricked by Bai Zai's younger brother? Yizan watched Rukia's back flash past behind the house, and rubbed his forehead with a headache. Then he bowed his head to face the 2 squat boys. What are you looking at? Today's training is over. He also said that he wants to become stronger. That is, he just talked about it. He didn't finish his homework well, and he still had a bad time. Shifunjin Yuichiro finally got the opportunity to train in the 10th division for the past 2 months, and he started to practice without a word. With him for comparison, Renji Asanjing, who has not moved for a long time, is a bit abrupt. Yuhi Mao, haven't started yet. Asanjing Renji was called back by his words, and those naturally flat eyes looked at Yizan with even more flat contempt. Idiot. Bah. Yizan gave him a hot package without any hesitation. Do you think you are a girl? How dare you talk to me like this? Asanjing Renji howled, covering her head angrily. Rukia admires you very much. Isn't this nonsense? Yizan chuckled. You've beaten him anyway, so don't be mad at Rukia. Asanjing Renji looked like she was giving up herself. Yizan's hand was itchy for a while, and he punched him again. I never get mad at girls. Train well, supervise each other, don't be lazy. Throwing down these words, Yizan walked in the direction where Rukia left. When I found Rukia, she was sitting on the side of the road, looking pitiful. There's nothing wrong with Kuchiki's house, why don't you want to? Yizan reluctantly sat down beside her. When Baizai grinds the old stubborn people to agree, you'll be Kuchiki Rukia, you can walk down the street and report your name. The kind that scare people to death. What's wrong with that? I like to stay in the 10th division. Rukia said dully. Can't bear me. Yizan raised his eyebrows, and the question was a bit harsh. Can't bear to let me go to the Deadwood's house. No, no, Rukia repeatedly denied. I'm going to Kuchiki's house, and Renji can't come with me. Really? Of course it's true, Rukia said decisively, but her face gradually turned Yuhi under Yizan's gaze. Okay, you can't bear that Yuhi Mao. Yizan shrugged and stopped worrying about who she couldn't bear. Even if you live in Kuchiki's house, it's no problem to come to the 10th division during the day. Huh, Rukia raised her head and stared at Yizan with starry eyes. Yushiro doesn't live here either, doesn't he come to report on time every day? Is this still possible? Rukia was shocked. No one said no. Yizan shrugged. Okay, that's it anyway. Do you still have any problems? Huh, Rukia blinked, as if she hadn't realized what was going on. If there is no problem, then let's go, Yizan said, and picked up Rukia. If you have something to say, just say it, don't cry secretly, I will feel bad. Rukia, who was in his arms, shy Yuhi, and couldn't say a word. Captain Yizan. An untimely voice broke the warm atmosphere. Captain Aizen. When Yizan released his arms around Rukia, Captain Aizen is walking. Just passing by here, I remembered something I wanted to ask for Captain Yizan, so I came here. Lan Ran smiled gently. It seems to have disturbed Captain Yizan. It's nothing, it's finished anyway. Yizan smiled. Captain Aizen came by coincidence. Since you have something to ask me, why don't you go back together? What a coincidence, you must have been eavesdropping just now. Yizan gave this disobedient subordinate a glance and walked back first. Rukia looked at Yizan, then at Lan Ran, and said hello in a low voice, and followed behind Yizan step by step. ... Say, what's the matter with me? Sitting down in the captain's room, Yizan watched Aizen pull the Zanpakuto again. About silver. Chapter 123_just so strong. Yizan, have you told Matsumoto Ranju about Silver's participation in the Bleach experiment? Aizen Wuyuji looked at Yizan with a serious look. The suspicion and disapproval in his eyes were really. Yizan was almost embarrassed to see. Of course not. Yizan turned the brush on the table. Who am I in your eyes? Silver said that Matsumoto Ranki kept asking about his whereabouts, and inquired about his whereabouts. I just told her that Ichimaru Silver might have something to do with the captain's defection, but I didn't say anything specific. I'm more curious as to what the purpose is for you to say this. Aizenwu Yusuke looked at him with the look of me and you being a big shopping agent, not in the same world. Purpose. Yizan raised his eyebrows. In terms of purpose, does hooking up with a girl count? After Yizan said these words, the gentle mask on Aizen Yusuke's face shattered inch by inch. The corners of his mouth twitched and he said, "You should know that our plan needs to be very careful, and there can be no mistakes at all. This is because I believe in you." Yizan patted Aizen's right on the shoulder. "Will you leave any clues?" "Of course not, right?" Aizen Usuke nodded with difficulty, feeling that he could guess what he was going to say next. "No flaws are left, these are not problems, or something." "There's no evidence anyway, what's the big deal?" Yizan said. "Although it is different from what Yusuke Aizen had guessed, it has the same meaning. Silver doesn't know who you are. I'm troubled by you." Aizen Yusuke sighed. "I can't explain why I'm always against me. Against him, but I don't deal with you. Because I am strong." Yizan shrugged. "The only man in Jingling Court who is not confused by your Zanpakuto, what do you think?" "The only two." Aizen Yusuke looked at Yizan. "Who else is there besides you?" "Kenpachi Zakagi. He should not have reached this level." "It doesn't matter if you know, he is Kenpachi's predecessor." "Of course not Ghost Rock City." Yizan would think for a moment. "The predecessor of Ghost Rock City's predecessor." "Oh." Aizen Yusuke raised his eyebrows. "He's not dead." "Infernal hell. Looks like a dangerous person," said Usuke Aizen. "Compared to him, you seem to have an extraordinary understanding of my Zanpakuto." "Of course." Yizan nodded. "Far more understanding than you think." Aizen clenched his hands into fists under the Death Tyrant outfit, but his face was not visible at all. "Can you tell me how much you understand?" "Hypnosis." Yizan smiled and looked at Aizen Yusuke, whose expression changed. "Looking at your expression, I'm obviously right." "You are very strong." Finally, Aizen said. "Of course, my strength is beyond your imagination." Yizan accepted this compliment as a matter of course. "Silver thing." Aizen recalled the old story. "You said, for the sake of the same purpose, can you not be so specific to him?" "I didn't target him," Yizan said. "At most, he got in the way, and I kicked him." As soon as Aizen heard what he said, he knew that he was going to return without success. After Aizen left, the newly appointed Yizan's follower, Yuashiro of Saifunyuan, immediately came over and said, "Boss. Why? Will you teach me to fight for nothing? Practice yourself. 1,000 slashes have been practiced. Then practice another 1,000 times to draw the sword." Yizan said indifferently. "Real masters never let people see their movements when reporting." "Ah, I can't imagine it." Shifunyuan Yushiro looked at Yizan expectantly. "Boss, will you show us a show?" Yizan raised his eyebrows. "It's not impossible. Anyway, if you are idle, you are idle. If you have nothing to do, just pretend to be forced." Yizan thought so. "Go against a few targets. Follow your orders," said Shifunyuan Yushiro, and ran away in 3 or 2 steps. Although it seems that the combat power is not very good, and he is a crybaby, this shunpo can still be practiced. Asanjing Renji and Rukia also went to help. Yizan didn't call to stop. They swiped and carried the targets of the entire training ground. "Okay, I don't shoot easily," Yizan said, pressing his hands on the handle of the knife. Yuhi shadow flashes. More than a dozen targets made of wood were cut off and fell to the ground. "Did you see clearly?" Rukia rubbed her eyes, turned her head and asked Renji Asanjing. "Draw the knife, cut off those wooden targets, and close the knife." This series of actions was completed in an instant. Rukia only saw the shadow of Yuhi passing by, and neither saw Yizan's movement of drawing his sword nor his movement of withdrawing it. Shifunjin Yuashiro touched his chilly neck. "I've been pestering him before, so I won't be hated, right? If he's not happy, give me a knife." "In that case, it's too late for you to touch your neck now," Asanjing Renji said angrily. "It makes sense." Saifunyuan Yushiro nodded. "This further strengthens my determination to learn from Big Brother Yizan. Since you've seen it, go to practice." Yizan returned to his exclusive seat under the corridor and sat down. "Although I know you didn't see my movements clearly just now, I won't show it a second time. So stop looking at me, 5.9 is useless. Quote. Big brother. Shifeng Yuan Yushiro looked at Yizan expectantly. We've seen Kendo, that ghost. Would you like to send you the 5 dragons who have broken the 99 and 99? Yizan said timidly, successfully frightening the 3 curious little devils away. Bringing up children. Forget about Yuhimao, the Kuchiki family and the Shifeng Yuan family should give me some tutoring fees. Tutoring at the level of lousy can't be cheap. Yizan leaned on the Jinchuriki column, squinting. He muttered to himself with his eyes closed, but felt itching at the tip of his nose. He opened his eyes and saw that it was Hell Butterfly. Yizan let the Hell Butterfly fall on his hand and read the message inside. Chapter 124-Black Cat Night. Captain Yizan. Si Danfang saluted Yizan. You're busy, I'll go out. Yi Xuanchang waved to the huge guard. You're busy. Captain, why aren't you wearing Yuri? Si Danfang looked at Yizan's voice that had disappeared from sight, and blinked. Rung Lanan in the 1st district of Liuhun Street is the safest place in the Soul Society other than Jingling Court, and it is also the place that patrols the most death spirits. After meeting the 3 waves of patrol officers, Yizan came to a small forest. The Hell Butterfly he received just now was sent by Shifeng Yuan Yi, and he also asked him to meet here. However, Yizan looked around and saw no one. Not yet. This should be impossible. How could she, a person wanted by the Soul Society, be wandering around? Yizan looked up at the tall trees around, and unexpectedly met a pair of brown eyes. 30. It was a black cat, squatting on a tree branch, looking down at himself. Found it. Yizan moved his feet and climbed to the branch of the tree where the black cat was. Eldest sister Yi Tilda. Yi Xuanchang waved his hand to the cat. Your move is very useful, and others won't doubt you when they see it. Shifeng Yuan Yi waved his cat's paw. It's okay. Did you call me here to help me with something? Yizan asked. Shifeng Yuan sat upright at night, but the appearance of this black cat did not have any deterrent effect. We have already settled down in this world. Why didn't you wear Captain Yuri? You won't be fired because of us, right? How is that possible? Yizan chuckled. I forgot to wear it. This is what he said to Shifeng Yuan Yi. But in fact, it was he who had covered Haori for the broken bees yesterday and forgot to take it back. If I tell Yi that I was subjected to this and that by her adjutant last night. Forget it. What is it for the unexplainable things? Do you believe us now? You are so cruel. After you left, the little girl Broby is very sad. Yizan said, half and half. Hearing Yizan mentioning Broken Bee, a look of sadness flashed across Shifeng Yuan Yi's face. The secret mobile team can't be left unattended. It's the most suitable for her to stay. I'm here this time because I hope you can provide us with some information on Aizen in the future. This is very straightforward. Yizan thought for a while and nodded. Anyway, what you want to say depends on your mood. It's no big deal if you agree. Maybe you can ask Bengyu's whereabouts sooner. But, before that, can I ask you a question? Ask it. If I remember correctly, are you a woman? Although you are separated by men, you are indeed the one with 2 more meats than me. Yizan gestured in his heart, and then nimbly avoided a cat and mouse punch for the night. What did I say? You hit me. Yizan stood on the branch of another class. Isn't that just describing it? You don't have a flat chest. Why are you embarrassed? You have to show your legs in a dead tyrant outfit. Guy. You really deserve to be beaten. Even though he was a cat now, 2 blue veins still popped up on Yi's face. No, if you're a woman, why is your voice a man? Or, Yizan raised his eyebrows and looked at Shifeng Yuan Yi, you're actually a man. Voice is also a characteristic of revealing identity. Yi glanced at him. She might have wanted to turn the Byakugan, or stare, but the cat couldn't make such a complicated expression, so it turned into a glance in the end. Also, I just wanted to ask, my voice has changed, how can you recognize me? Brother Baizai said you are a cat demon, just think about it and you will know. Yizan smiled proudly. Also, I can tell you about Aizen's actions, but I can't know every action of his. And up, even if you don't know it, it's impossible to tell you all. You put my little brother down, who will make me a cow, a horse and Wang Jian. What are you going to play in the future? Just tell me what you know. He has been able to hide in the corpse soul world for so many years, and he has done secret experiments for so long without being known, and the truly secret actions will not be easily discovered. Yi Yi pondered. Yi Zan nodded. His latest move is to become the captain of the 5th division, and he is going to promote a guy named Ichimaru Silver who was in the 4th grade not long ago to be the vice captain. Ichimaru Silver. The black cat looked thoughtful. I've never heard of this surname. Of course you haven't heard of Liuhun Street. Yizan complained. Is there anything else? No more. Saifeng Yuan shook his head at night, wondering, are you in a hurry? Don't be in a hurry. Yizan smiled. I'm asking if you are in a hurry. If you are not in a hurry, listen to me about your brother. Yushiro. What's wrong with him? Saifeng Yuan Yi looked at Yizan in surprise, with a nervous look on his face. He haunts people. Yizan Yangtian sighed, tangling me to teach him the way of ghosts and swordsmanship. Why is your brother so annoying? Hearing Yizan say this, a smile flashed across the face of the black cat of Saifeng Yuan Yi. He's like this at home too, just get used to it. Just get used to it. Yizan raised his eyebrows and looked at Saifeng Yuan Yi. Why should I get used to it? Didn't I ask you to take care of him? You agreed to it yourself. Yi said as a matter of course. Why does this sentence sound so familiar? Yizan recalled what Shifunjin Yuashiro said when he saw him for the first time. Open black lens bracket. Sister said you will take care of me. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Aren't you my sister's boyfriend? Treat my brother-in-law like this. If I remember correctly, what I promised you was to take care of your brother a little. Yizan emphasized the words, take care of a little. Besides, how did you tell your brother? Self-proclaimed brother-in-law, scared me to death. My brother is thin-skinned. It's not like you don't know. If I don't say that, how could he be so embarrassed to come to find you? Saifeng Yuan Yi said as a matter of course. The arc of the cat's mouth was really proud. Chapter 125-tentative. Can this kind of thing be said nonsense? Yizan glared at her. No matter what, there should be at least a little bit of factual basis when you say this kind of thing. Boyfriend, male friend, it's just one word missing. What's the big deal? Saifeng Yuan Yi said, with a natural tone. Yi Xuanzhang looked at her with awe. I can't tell, you are such an easygoing woman. But what about me? Big sister, consider my feelings before you say such things. This. Saifeng Yuan Yi black cat flicked its tail. I only suffer from this kind of thing. I don't mind. What do you mind? Yizan. I really misread you. It's a big deal. Saifeng Yuan Yi said. Since Yushiro has found you, he will ask you to take care of him from now on. Saying that, she looked left and right. It's getting late, so I'll go first. Did I agree? Are you trying to buy or sell by force? Yizan smiled bitterly. Any or two of the little kids in the family don't care. They just throw it at me. Are you embarrassed? This is the trust in you. Don't you feel very moved? I have been friends with Byakuya for so many years, and I have not entrusted Yushiro to him. That's because you know that if you appeared in front of him that day and revealed a little bit of intention to leave the Soul Realm, Byakuya would grab you mercilessly. Yizan turned to Byakugan. When I don't, do you know what's on your mind? Saifeng Yuan Yi laughed awkwardly. In the end, it's because I trust you very much. No, don't worry about this trust. Yizan waved his hands again and again. That little black charcoal in your family even called my brother-in-law. I'm scared to death. What responded to him were 2 cat claws. Yizan looked at the grid pattern on the back of his hand. His mouth twitched. Eldest sister, are you serious? You actually greeted my face. It hurt my face. How can you explain to the many girls in the Soul Society who love me? That's called killing harm for the people. Yi said, standing up. It's getting late. I'll leave if I have nothing to do. Wait a minute, Yizan called to Yi, the fourth branch of the hospital, who said it's gone. I still have something to do. Where are you staying? A small city in this world. Sifeng Yuan looked at Yizan at night. Why, are you coming to join us? I did a good job in the Soul realm, and I went to join you when my brain was pumping. Why are you asking this if you don't run away? I'm curious. Wouldn't it be nice to be a guest at your place when you have time? We are wanted criminals in the Soul Society. Of course, the less people who know this kind of information, the better. Are you still careful? Yizan was a little surprised, and then he thought about it. Yes, a group of serious criminals in the Soul Society. If the news is leaked, old man Yamamoto can send someone to come to the door in minutes. However, understanding belongs to understanding, and dissatisfaction still needs to be expressed. Yizan then said, do you mean not to tell me? He thought that Sifeng Yuan Yi would have to find a reason, or explain something, but this guy actually nodded. Yeah, can't tell you. Holy crap, isn't that the empty town? How can I be an old man and don't know? I brought blue dye to your nest in minutes. Believe it or not. Didn't you say when you were leaving that you had to find a way to solve the problem of their blurring? How did you handle it? After Yizan finished speaking, he frowned when he saw Sifeng Yuan's obvious hesitation. It's not even that. Can't tell. Forget it, I'll let you know. Sifeng Yuan Yi seemed to have made a major decision. The result is not bad. How to say? The virtual mask has been removed. Sifeng Yuan Yi said, and the strength has also been greatly improved. It has surpassed their original strength. That is to say, it has surpassed the captain level. In other words, Masked Legion has evolved successfully. That's good, congratulations. To a certain extent, they can also be regarded as successful in Aizen's experiment. Sifenjin Yaiki said, their success has confirmed the correctness of Kazuki and Aizen's guess, and that kind of thing can indeed be obtained. Beyond the power of death. Eldest sister, you missed your mouth. Yizan looked at her amusingly. That kind of thing refers to Bengyu, right? As soon as Yizan finished speaking, Sifeng Yuan Yi's cat hair exploded. Yeah, will you have the character of a cat when you turn into a cat? Fried hair or something? Yizan laughed. Sifeng Yuan glared at him at night, and it took a while to let the blown-up hair go down. So you all know it. Unfortunately, I know a little bit. I should say that old man Yamamoto guessed it when he showed us Kazuki's underground laboratory. Sifeng Yuan looked at him at night, obviously a little disbelieving. For example, Urahara Kazuki's exile from the Soul Society is not wrong at all. Yizan laughed. He should have done research similar to Aizen. But he hasn't tossed to the level of human experimentation. Or, in other words, he did too, but hasn't dared to attack the captains yet. He stopped after he found out that the thing was uncontrollable. Yoichi Sifenjin defended Kazuki Urahara. What did he use to help Lisa and the others get rid of the blur? Isn't it Bengyu? Yizan raised his eyebrows. That kind of dangerous thing should be destroyed, right? We've tried it, ghostly or whatever, it can't destroy that thing. In that case, it should be handed over to the Soul Society for safekeeping. Yizan said tentatively, if it is inconvenient for you to come forward because you are being hunted down, there is no problem for me to transfer it on your behalf. Why do you think I want to leave the Soul Society? Sifeng Yuan asked Yi. Of course it's because it can't be handed over to Soul World. Even if I do, it's just an experiment with Kazuki Urahara using Bengyu, captains. It's just a charge of actively participating in order to gain strength. Then Bengyu is still in Urahara-Ki's assistant now. Yizan continued to test, can you protect that thing? I don't know where it is. Sifeng Yuan Yi said, Kazuki said he put it in a safe place. Chapter 126-Broken Bees Come to the Door. He didn't even tell you. Hiding things, of course, the fewer people who know the better, I haven't asked him. Sifeng Yuan Yi said, who knows if Aizen will catch people who may know and ask this. His Zanpakuto ability, there are oddities that have to be guarded against. Quote. Makes sense. Yizan could only nod his head in agreement with Saifeng Yuan Yei's words. Because as she said, Kyoka Suzuki or something, Aizen only needs Shikai, who knows whether what you see in front of you is the person you saw, or Aizen. Except for himself, who knows his weaknesses, others are really hard to guard against. So, that's it, Saifeng Yuan Yi said. Speaking of which, the problem now is that Hirako and the others have a great misunderstanding of the Soul Realm. This is the most troublesome. Yizan nodded knowingly. Anyone who is almost killed as a dummy won't be very happy. Saifeng Yuan sighed at night. In short, that's it. Anyway, I've told you what I can say and what I can't say. I'll rely on you to help me in the jingling court in the future. Well, Yushiro also asks you. It's best to change his problem of crying at every turn. Saifeng Yuan finished the night, and without waiting for Yizan to agree, he turned around and ran away without a shadow. If you have the ability to say such things, don't run if you have the ability. Yizan looked at the direction she fled. Also, it's better to change his cries at every turn. You are so capable, but you or yourself do it. Yizan shook his head in anger. And when he thought of going back to face three little devils again, he was really unlovable. The only thing that is pleasing to the eye is the girl Rukia, but she has to return it to Kuchiki's house. Even if she still reports every day from now on, dinner will definitely be eaten at Kuchiki Mansion. Yuhi hairy kid face to face. What a tragedy. ... What are you all doing around here? Yizan looked at the team of players surrounded by the door. When you come back from the task, just go in. What does it look like to be crowded at the door? Team, Captain. The team member standing at the outermost looked at Yizan in surprise, then bumped the person in front with his elbow. The captain is back, the one in front get out of the way. The person standing in front of him looked back, let out a strange cry, and squeezed to the side. I just went out for a while, what happened? Yizan raised his eyebrows and looked at the various strange performances of the crowd, as well as their whispering round. The captain didn't wear Haori and almost didn't see it. By the way, why didn't the captain wear Haori? Pig you, didn't you see the captain of the second division of Haori holding it in his hand? Hearing this, could it be that Broken Bee personally sent it back? When Yizan thought of this, he didn't take the path that everyone pushed and shoved to get out, and turned over directly from the wall, leaving the Sai behind him. Broken Bee. Yizan looked at the Broken Bee standing in the courtyard with a bad face. Why don't you go in and sit? I appreciate the discipline of your 10th division here. Broken Bee said angrily. As expected, it is in the same line as the 10th division captain. That's not what you said about me last night. Yizan raised his eyebrows. Last night you were holding me back and wouldn't let me go. But now you are talking about me like this, so sad. Shifunjin Yuashiro, who had long forgotten about training and hid in the corner to watch 8 trigrams. Big brother, how dare he talk to Broken Bee like this? Saifeng Yuan Yuashiro blinked, with a look of shock and disbelief. I admire her even more. Is she the new captain of the 2nd division? Rukia looked at the woman who was standing opposite Yizan, and said inexplicably. Yeah. Shifunjin Yushiro nodded. She used to be my sister's bodyguard, although sometimes it's weird, but most of the time she's a very serious woman. How can I describe this? Anyway, it's the guards. The other men in there can't beat her, that's all. So powerful. A Sanjing Renji looked at the Broken Bee, who was obviously not very friendly with Yizan. Will you see the scene where Yizan was sent flying? This kind of thing. You don't have to think about it, it's impossible. Rukia grabbed his head and slammed it against the wall. Look at it, don't talk nonsense. Rukia, you are really becoming more and more violent. Asane Renji sighed. If Brother Yizan and Broken Bee fight, it must be very exciting. I'm here to give you back what you have. Broken Bee said and handed Captain Yuri back to him. That's it. Take off my clothes, won't you help me put them back on? Yizan raised his eyebrows and looked at her. It's not good to be so indifferent. To his remarks, Broken Bee's answer was a punch. If you don't agree, you will do it. You and Sister Yi are in the same line. Yizan held her arm. Don't make me angry, have you forgotten the previous lesson? Broken Bee looked at Yizan's threatening eyes, and couldn't help recalling what happened before. It seems like a long time has passed, but in fact it is only a year. That time, the young master of the Kuchimu family got married, and Ida did not want to go, so he chased after the secret mobile team, even releasing such a terrifying Reiatsu. If Master Yi had not appeared at that time, she would have no doubt that she would be killed by that terrifying Reiatsu. But I'm not who I was before, Broken Bee said. Do you think I'll be frightened by your Reiatsu? Little sister, you're still too weak. Yizan shook his head. It's not difficult to challenge me, but if you lose, you have to pay a price. This time, I won't be here to save you. Hearing Yizan mentioning the night of the Saifeng courtyard, Broken Bee's reaction was unexpectedly strong. Don't mention that traitor. Don't get excited, how can you become the captain of the second division if she doesn't leave? Yizan patted her head. Besides, it's not up to you to betray or not. Girl, you are so dissatisfied because Yaiki ran with Urahara-ki. Yizan looked at Broken Bee clearly. This deep master-servant relationship. Tisk tisk. Chapter 127-Trouble 1 by 1. You have to know that Yi Yisong has high expectations for you. Yizan kindly spoke to Saifeng Yuan Yi, although the effect of what he said might be similar to that of sowing discord. Expecting. Broken Bee snorted coldly. You care too much about a sinner. You were the same person who took Yi as a god before. Girl, you're the type to turn around when you break up, aren't you? It's your ex-boss anyway. Girl, you're overkill like this. To Yizan's words, Broken Bee only sneered twice, then stretched out a hand and twisted a leaf off Yizan's clothes. Did Captain Yizan go to the bush just now? Yizan glanced at the leaf in her hand. Obviously, I got it when I was climbing a tree just now, and I didn't notice it for a while. Maybe it got it somewhere, Yizan said, and then looked at Broken Bee with a smile. Thank you, Miss Broken Bee, for helping me remove it. I'm more curious about what can make you drill through the bushes. Broken Bee said relentlessly. There are too many things like this, Yizan said seriously, such as a girl, or someone hiding behind a tree and trying to do something to me, but I was taught a lesson. Broken Bee squeezed the leaf in his hand, and glanced at the scar on Yizan's hand. For example, a cat all the time. What the hell? Do you want sharp eyes, girl? Yizan covered his face. Yeah, I saw a cute cat and wanted to bring it back to keep it, but it was run away. Yizan said half-truth. Really? A cold light flashed in Broken Bee's eyes. If Captain Yizan catches that cat, why don't you give it to me? I like cats very much. Okay. Yi Xuanzhang nodded wisely, and now he doesn't have the heart to tease Broken Bee. I feel like I'm the one being molested. After sending off the Broken Bees, Yizan returned to the captain's room, and then another trouble came again. Briquettes, your big brother, I don't want to talk now. Yizan angrily looked at Shifeng Yuan Yushiro, who was poking his head outside the door. It doesn't matter if you don't speak, I ask, you nod. Saifeng Yuan Yushiro looked at Yizan expectantly, his eyes sparkling. Disobedient kids or something, really annoying. Yizan thought like this and released the spiritual pressure directly, of course, not all of it. His purpose was to scare away Yushiro, not to let him be paralyzed here and continue to be an eyesore. But his purpose was defeated. Sifenjin Yushiro did not run away as he thought, but sniffled and looked like he was about to cry. You bullied me. His tone was full of accusations. Yizan couldn't take it anymore. You are such a man, boy. Do you have any self-consciousness as a man? For such a crying guy, I feel that I insulted my hand when I beat you. Your sister said that you looked very annoying when you cried, don't you know? Yizan said badly. With tears rolling in his eyes, Shifenjin Yushiro made a move and looked at Yizan blankly. Let's go, let Lao Su wait in peace, and I'll talk about it later. What have you been doing this day? Yizan recalled while driving away Shifeng Yuan Yushiro. First, I persuaded Rukia's sister to go back to Kuchiki's house, and then Rukia was unwilling, so she managed to get her through, but Aizen ran to talk about Ichimaru Silver. After the guy left, he showed his strength to the three boys, but Yi came again. After he came back, he met the girl Broken Bee to send the Captain Yori. I thought I could make fun of it, but the girl actually saw that she and I had met. Yizan looked at the scratch marks on the back of his hand with only shallow marks left. Everyone else was caught by a woman and said that it was caught by a cat. I am really caught by a cat. Yizan shook his head. What is the name of this 1010? ... Big brother. Early the next morning, Yizan stepped out of the door, and the angry shout of Sifanyuan Yuashiro startled him. This kid must have guessed something after hearing what Broken Bee said yesterday. Yizan thought about it. It seemed that even if he told it, it wouldn't be a big deal. It wasn't me who was unlucky anyway. Yesterday I met a black cat on the road. Yizan said, that's it, it's gone. Sister really said that I'm annoying. Shifanyuan Yushiro's focus was obviously not whether Yizan saw Yi. Do you really think I'm annoying? Still confused about this. Of course, this is what Lao Su said casually, but it is not enough to admit it now. Yizan blinked, and his expression changed the topic naturally. Si Xiaolang, you must know that you are a man. Yizan said solemnly, although your elder sister who looks like a man may have caused you some misunderstanding, although the character of a man is completely opposite to that of a woman. But you know, it is your sister who is abnormal, so your personality is the opposite of your sister, then you are not normal. What you said, why can't I understand it? Shifanyuan Yushiro looked at Yizan blankly. I mean, no normal man would cry at every turn. Yizan glanced at him. Do you want to be regarded as a pervert? Oh, Yushiro Shifanjin touched his eyes, but I'm born. Then change. Yizan turned to Byakugan. Although that kid Renji is very annoying, I still recommend you to learn from him. But, Shifanyuan Yushiro looked at Yizan hesitantly. But what? I think you are better. This kid can actually flatter. Yizan silently glanced at Shifanyuan Yuashiro, but I don't want to see my own shadow on a crybaby. Hearing this, Shifanjin Yuashiro started to gather tears in his eyes again. Cry slowly by yourself, I won't accompany you. Yizan turned his head and walked away, walked a few steps, and then turned back. Additionally, if you dare to cry in front of me once, I will drive you away without explanation. Of. Chapter 128 Rukia is taken away. I'm sorry. Yushiro Shifanyuan hastily apologized. Does my sister really say that the way I cry is annoying? Here comes again. Yizan looked up at the sky speechlessly. No, she said let me help you get rid of the problem of crying every now and then. I knew, how could my elder sister hate me? Shifanyuan's face turned cloudy, but why does my elder sister only see you when she comes? Because you are my brother-in-law. There are so many nonsense kung fu, go and practice by yourself. Yizan turned to Byakugan. Report Captain, the captain of the 6th Division is here. A member of the 10th Division trotted over to report. Take one away and make another. Yizan was speechless. Then let him wait. I haven't had breakfast yet, so I don't want to entertain him. This is not good. The team member hesitated. After all, he is the young master of the Kuchiki family. What's wrong? I let him come here early in the morning. Let him stay wherever he wants. Captain. Can't understand human language. Yizan frowned. I didn't speak clearly enough. I'm sorry. The player he was looking at bowed and apologized. I'll go talk to Captain Kuchiki right now. ... I guess, you must have come here early in the morning for Rukia's business. Yizan pushed open the door and went in. As soon as he looked up, he saw 3 little devils sitting upright, next to the expressionless big iceberg, Kuchiki Byakuya. I'm just going to have breakfast, why don't you hold the meeting? Forget it, Asane Renji. Anyway, that guy is Rukia's follower, but does this have something to do with Shifanjin Yuashiro's hairline? Yushiro, you and Renji went to training, what's the matter with you? Yizan started chasing people before he could sit down. Of course it has something to do with it. Shifunjin Yuashiro just didn't leave. I am the current head of the Sifenjin family, and I am a relationship with the Kuchiki family, and I am also a friend with Rukia. Of course, the Kuchiki family's adoption of Rukia is up to me. It has something to do with it. It has nothing to do with Renji. How many days have you known Rukia? Asane Renji became anxious. I grew up with Rukia, what do you know? Don't be arguing. Rukia punched each of them in Kuchiki Byakuya's shocked eyes. Listen to brother Yizan. Rukia. Asane Renji wanted to speak again, but was thrown by Yizan's collar. Snapped. The sliding door closed behind them. The elder agreed to your adoption of Rukia? Yizan asked. Of course, this was asked by Kuchiki Byakuya, but Kuchiki Byakuya didn't answer directly, but looked at Rukia. Which one of the noble etiquette you learned at home made you do that untimely behavior? Rukia bowed her head in shame and said nothing. Go back and copy the family rules. Kuchiki Byakuya finished speaking, and then answered Yizan's question. Part of it agrees. Actually, I still have a question. Yizan glanced at Rukia. In the original book, it was the second year after Hijin's death. Kuchiki Byakuya found Rukia and adopted her as a sister despite all the opposition. Now that Hijin is still alive, he adopted Rukia as a sister. Marrying a sister's sister or something, isn't it incest? What identity did you use to adopt Rukia? Sister. Daughter. Sister. Byakuya Kuchiki's iceberg skills were cracked by Yizan again. How could I adopt her as a daughter? Yi Xuanzhang looked at Kuchiki Byakuya, who turned into frizzy hair in seconds, and glanced at Rukia's stunned expression. Byakuya, pay attention to your image in front of your sister. Kuchiki Byakuya's face froze, and then with a disguised expression, he turned into that cold eldest young master again. At this time, Rukia's expression was completely stunned after shock. You said that the younger sister is the younger sister. I can quite understand the reasons why the elders did not agree. Yizan patted Kuchiki Byakuya on the shoulder. However, as your eldest brother, I can only support you no matter what. Quote. Thank you, I'll take that Rukia with me. Yizan nodded without any objection, but Kuchiki Byakuya noticed Rukia's hesitant expression again and asked, Rukia, what else do you want to say? I think in the future, like Yushiro, I will often come over to play. Rukia said hesitantly. While saying that, she aimed at Yizan and Kuchiki Byakuya. Kuchiki Byakuya pondered for a moment, did not refuse, just said, whenever you want to go out, just talk to the housekeeper or your sister. Thank you big brother. After hearing Kuchiki Byakuya's words, Rukia smiled happily, and followed Kuchiki Byakuya without any meaning. After they left, Asanjin Renji and Shifunjin Yushiro emerged from the corner. If that's the case, should I call Rukia, Miss Kuchiki, in the future? Said Shifunjin Yushiro. It's a bit embarrassing to say that. What are you embarrassed about? I'm just embarrassed. Asanjin Renji said angrily. She will be a noble in the future. A noble. Renji, you seem to have overlooked a point. I am also a noble. Shifunjin Yuashiro reminded him lightly. I have never seen you embarrassed. Why are you embarrassed that you are a noble? Asanjin Renji asked. Of course it's because you have to abide by aristocratic etiquette when dealing with noble women. What do you know? Shifunjin Yushiro rolled his eyes at him. 0.6 inches. It's nothing to do with you anyway. How did you talk like this, kid? Asanjin Renji was anxious. I found out that after Rukia left, there are only you two nasty little devils left here. Yizan said timidly. I suddenly feel unhappy. It's none of my business. Shifunjin Yushiro immediately cleared himself. I also think Renji hates it, so I have to stand on your side. Do you think you're cute? Yizan silently looked at the two little devils who were fighting together after a word of disagreement. Now that Rukia is gone, it's not fun for me to stay here and watch these two annoying brats, so let's go out for a walk. He thought about it this way and said to the two of them, after the fight, run around Jingling Court twice. Chapter 129-Confession. Is Mayazi here? Yizan stopped Zibo Heian, who was about to go out on a mission. She's on a mission, and I'm going to help. Zibo Heian looked at Yizan, guessing that he would definitely say to help. Really? Yizan said immediately, then let's go together. They quickly shuttled through the forest, and when they arrived at the location, the battle was in the heat of the battle. 3 Killians. In the entire team, only Miyako Mizuno was struggling to support her, and the others couldn't help at all. What's even more pitiful is that Killian has a sky-defying skill, anti-membrane. 3 Killian, the anti-film is used in turn. Rao is Mizuno. Miyako has the strength of the vice-captain level, and they can't do anything about it. The battlefield was on the edge of the block, and the sparse thatched houses had long been trampled by the giant Killian, leaving the ground in a mess. I found that every time I came to help the 13th Division of the 30th Division, I couldn't get along with Killian. Yizan thought it was a little funny. Is the entire 13th Division the only one that you have encountered with Killian the most? This is not the era when Daxu didn't want money after Aizen's mutiny. It's still relatively rare for Kiryan to be outside the virtual circle at this meeting. At least the 10th team did not encounter it when they went out on a mission. That's true. Zibo Heian stunned. Our team has better luck. But, brother, you still haven't done it. Do you still want this hero's chance to save the beauty? Stupid, I'm thinking of a cool way to play. Yizan gave him a white look. What's the point of cutting down 3 Kiryans? Of course, it's my style to be cool and domineering. Zibo Heian was slightly taken aback. Then have you thought about it? I am thinking about it. Yizan said here, and when he looked up, he saw a Kiryan ready to release a flicker, like now. Throwing down these words, Yizan rushed out like an arrow from the string. He didn't draw his sword and slashed at Killian, but rushed directly to Miyano Miyazaki, pulling her away from the range of void dodge. What's the big deal? Even if Lao Su killed Killian who was there, Miyako Mizuno would just say thank you to me. What's the big deal? How can it be so real to hold someone in your arms like this now? Yizan snickered in his heart. Miyako, are you injured? Falling down on the open space with ease, Yizan very gentlemanly helped Miyano to stand up. Sorry, I'm late. Hearing this, Zibo Heian, who was watching the whole process and also listening in, flipped a Byakugan. I'm fine. Miyako Mizuno took her hand out of Yizan's hand. Why is Captain Yizan here? I happened to meet Heian, and he said he wanted to come to support you, so he came over when he had nothing to do. Yizan smiled slightly. I'll talk about it after I've dealt with the 3 Kiryans. Miyako Mizuno only felt that there was something wrong with what Yizan said, but before she could say anything, Yizan had already left. His shunpo may have surpassed Shunjin Yaiki. This is the unanimous guess of the captains of the 13th chapter of the Gotei, and it seems that no more evidence is needed to prove this. Because, he once caught Yi Yi. Without even seeing how he drew his sword, Miyano only saw Kiryan, who had just flashed, collapsed into a spiritual child in an instant. The other Kiryan didn't even have time to use the anti-membrane. This is simply a stage for Yizan alone, so many people in their 13th division are spectators. After clearing the 3 Kiryans without any difficulty, Yizan put the knife back into the scabbard, raised his eyebrows in response to everyone's dull expressions. Why are you looking at me like this? Killian, but he has the strength of a vice-captain. Mizuno Miyako said tangled, you alone. Although he has the strength of the vice-captain level, the strength gap between the vice-captains is also very large. Yizan shrugged, and began to pretend to be a great cause without changing his face. Besides, Kiryan has no IQ. It's slow to react, which is nice, the type that I can kill very easily. Quote. What he means is that he has a high IQ and a fast speed, which is exactly the type that completely abuses Kiryan. Zibo Heian annotated Yizan's words seriously. Hyanzang, you really know me. Yizan slapped him on the shoulder. Why does your tone sound a little jealous? You think too much. Zibo Heian shook her head. I just think your tone is too pretentious. And Mizuno Sanshi may not understand, so kindly help her explain. There are so many words. Yizan pushed him away. Meiyazi, I wonder if I have the honor to escort you back to Jingling Court. From the beginning of Yizan and Zibo Heian's sing-along quarrel, Mizuno Miyako covered her mouth and laughed, and when she heard Yizan's question, she didn't stop laughing, but nodded vigorously. So, how do you thank me? On the way back, Zibo Heian frowned at Yizan. You've made enough money. 300 helped you kill 3 killion with 0 casualties. Yizan raised his eyebrows. Vice Captain Heian, how do you thank me? How about Mizuno Sansi for you? Zibo Heian laughed and didn't lower her voice at all. As soon as you heard Mizuno Sansi was in danger, you ran to the hero to save the beauty without hesitation. Who doesn't know what you were thinking? Ah. Boy, is it possible to say this kind of thing carelessly? Yizan glanced at Mizuno Miyako, posing to hit Zibo Heian. Crossing the river and demolishing the bridge, Yizan, you are so inauthentic. Zibo Heian turned around and ran. Although Miyako Mizuno felt that Yizan was interested in her for a long time, Yizan never said it clearly. Now being called out by Zibo Heian so suddenly, Mizuno Miyako couldn't stand the ridiculous gazes of everyone in the 13th division, and went back one step ahead. Look at what you said. Yizan looked at Mizuno Miya's voice running away, and looked at Zibo Heian helplessly. Brother, I see that your love is hard to say in your heart, and you are kind enough to help you. Are you still not happy? However, it was you who actually scare Miyako away. Yizan turned to Byakugan. Then you are catching up. Don't you take such a good opportunity. Chapter 130_reliable. Pig, you. Yi Xuanbai glanced at Zibo Heian, who was not too serious to watch the excitement. What am I catching up to at this time? Meiyazi shouldn't think that I bring grace and seek repayment. Where is my image? Little brother Yizan, isn't your image just a sight to behold? Your sister's eyes widened when she saw the color, and the image of Lao Su is not good for everyone's hobbies. But such a careless guy like Zibo Heian wouldn't understand it if he said it. Angry. Because Yizan didn't answer, Zibo Heian asked suspiciously from behind. In this regard, Yizan snorted coldly, expressing by his actions that he was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. Why don't you go back to the 13th division with us? Zibo Heian said again. Mizuno 3 seats must be back to the team now. You were going to sit with us, didn't you? Did he think that I didn't plan to go to the 13th division? Yizan frowned. If I don't go to the 13th division, is it possible that if you do good deeds, you will leave without even teasing the girl? What a joke. I was going to see your captain. Yizan said, I don't know which of my actions caused you misunderstandings. Zibo Heian smiled awkwardly, and then began to change the subject. I heard that Bai Zai, Rukia brought it back. This topic has shifted so bluntly. Yizan nodded, then. Aren't you lost? Don't get lost. Really or not, don't you turn your eyes away when you see a girl. Zibo Heian was shocked. Don't admit it. Who wouldn't admit it? Originally, I wanted to pay his respects to his sister. I just took care of him for a while. Isn't it natural for him to bring him back? Yizan put one hand on Zibo Heian's shoulder. Don't say it, it's almost like kindergarten. Rukia was brought back by the younger brother Bai Zai, and there is a Yuhi fur boy and Yi that crybaby brother. I'm so sorry, brother. Zibo Heian looked at him with a bitter look and couldn't help herself laughing. So Yushiro is with you. Looking at your tone of schadenfreude, it's obvious that you know his virtues very well. Yizan shook his head. That guy Yi tricked me to death. Serve the girl, you can recognize it. Zibo Heian patted Yizan's shoulder sympathetically, but the curvature of the corner of his mouth never fell, and the smile on his face made Yizan want to give him 2 fists. Are you so gloating? Yizan made up his mind. If Zibo Heian dared to nod, he would definitely not let him laugh. No. Zibo Heian shook her head with a look of affirmation, then looked left and right, and said, Liuvun Street is still so lively. The way you change the subject is very blunt, you know that. Yizan looked at him speechlessly. Really? Zibo Heian smiled. Actually, I still like Liuhun Street. Jingling Court is too dull. Your family has moved to Liuhun Street. Why are you talking about this? Yizan raised his eyebrows. Tell me about the fellowship from Liuhun Street. The fellowship. Hearing what Yizan said, Zibo Heian laughed dryly and motioned Yizan to walk faster. It was not until he kept a certain distance from the 13th division that he said, being a nobleman is different from being an ordinary person in Ryahun Street. Although the Shiba family has abandoned the status of a nobleman, after all, he was a nobleman. So I can understand the pressure on Byakuya's younger brother. It's about him again. Yizan covered his face, the matter of adopting Rukia. I have already promised to help him. You don't need to help him as a lobbyist again, really. I meant to tell you not to help him. Zibo Heian looked at him with a look of helplessness. You really promised to help him. What did you say? Yizan raised his eyebrows. Do you mean to tell me not to help him? This is not right. Aren't you Baizai's good brother? How can you pull your back? Of course. Zibo Heian nodded. Don't you think his behavior is unreasonable? A sister who adopted his wife to be a sister usually looks serious and rigid, but it's so unreliable when he does things. Although this is suspected of being a bit of a mess, Yizan snorted, but it is understandable. After all, it is the request of the wife. Actually, it's all your fault. Zibo Heian said angrily. If you hadn't supported him to marry someone from Liuhun Street, how could such a thing happen? I guess you were going to make a fuss about the noble example. Yizan smiled lightly. Tell me, who asked you to be a lobbyist? I haven't done anything yet. Of course no one. Zibo Heian said without hesitation, but in the face of Yizan's clear eyes, he touched his nose, Byakuya's grandfather. Really? Yizan confirmed his guess. He had faced Reiatsu with Kuchiki Silver Ling before, and the old man must know that he could not overwhelm him in terms of power and strength, so he wanted to find another way and let himself and Byakuya's mutual friend be a lobbyist. Of course, this person is Heian the most suitable. He knew that he couldn't beat me, so he didn't dare to come and tell me. Yizan raised his eyebrows and looked at Zibo Heian. Okay, you have conveyed what you said, so I'll just pretend it never happened. Zibo Heian looked at him helplessly. Although I had already guessed that you wouldn't agree, your refusal was too straightforward. I've never liked to leave unrealistic hopes for others. Yizan chuckled. I don't have any advantages other than being strong and smart, but it's true that I can stick to both sides for my brothers and sisters. In fact, you have put all your advantages on yourself. Zibo Heian looked at Yizan with contempt. I immediately understood why Baizai's grandfather didn't talk to you himself. That's not it. Yizan smiled. Don't worry, if you have anything, I will help you too. But before that, you still have to deal with a lot of girls, Yi-Yi's younger brother, and the so-called Yuhi hairy brat. Shibo Heian shook her goosebumps. Yizan, I suddenly realized that you are very busy. No way, the road to a male god is full of difficulties and obstacles. Chapter 131-Worrying Floating Bamboo Captain. In the present world, Urahara Store. How is the situation in the Soul Society? Everyone who has lifted the blur looked at Saifeng Yuan Yaiki who had returned from the Soul Realm. Saifeng Yuan looked at them at night and was a little embarrassed. Obviously, the news of going to the Soul World has been concealed as much as possible, but it was discovered unexpectedly. Hiriko Meiko looked at Saifeng Yuan Yei. According to the character of the captain, he will only proceed from the overall situation. Since the Central 46th Office has already made a ruling, even if he knows it is wrong, he will remain firm. Execution. I know you're still asking. Saifeng Yuan frowned at night. I'm embarrassed by this, you know. Let's talk. We've already been sentenced to death. What else is unacceptable? Lisa Yadomaru said. What happened next? It's just that our position has been taken over. What else can we do? Liu Quan said coolly. I'm curious who will take over for us. It's still the captain of the 10th Division. He helped us before. Did he receive 063 for punishment? Kunin gave Lisa Yazumaru a pointed look. I asked for someone. You don't need to worry about that kid Yizan. Whoever is unlucky will not be unlucky. Siphon Yuan Yi said, although there is no news from the Soul Society, it is possible that someone has been sent to the present world. Don't act rashly until Yoshimukuro, who hides the spirit child, is made. Why didn't you say who took over our position? Hiriko Meiko looked at Siphon Yuan Yaiki. With so many captains and vice-captains disappearing all at once, there are not many suitable candidates to take over the position. The current captain of the 5th Division is Aizen Yusuke. This is called in a word. As soon as Hiriko Meiko finished speaking, everyone's eyes turned to Siphon Yuan Yaiki. Siphon Yuan Yaiki nodded with difficulty. Why are you staring at me? I didn't make him the captain. Although I didn't object to the meeting at that time, I also asked Captain Yamamoto about the suspicion of Aizen. Does he blame me for not listening? Since Aizen has become the captain, it means that Soul Society chose to believe his words. Hiriko Meiko looked solemn. There are so many of us, but he is not as trustworthy as him. This matter is a bit weird. Urahara Kazuki said, who has been silent. This matter is full of loopholes, even if they think that the ghost of death should be treated as a fake. Don't look at me like that, I haven't finished yet. Even if you want to deal with the blurred ones, but so many people accuse Aizen of being the mastermind, why didn't anyone investigate Aizen, but instead made him the captain? It has something to do with his Zanpakuto's ability. Hiriko Meiko said affirmatively. I thought I managed to spy on him, but I was tricked by him. Compared to those, we have been completely betrayed by the Soul Society. Do you still want to go back? Tsuruuki Hiyori looked at Hiriko Meiko with a gloomy face. Bald, don't make excuses for them, it's too stupid. Shuru Yukitaki frowned and looked at Yizan. You frowned. Listen to this tone, Captain Fuju, I'm not welcome. Yizan pointed at Zibo Heian. It was your deputy captain who tried to invite me here. By the way, where is Meiyazi? Shiro Yukitaki glared at Zibo Heian. Really? Zibo Heian showed a tangled expression and nodded slowly. This is because he helped us kill Daxu, so. Actually, I sold the Mizuno 3 seats in order to find a chance to tell Yizan about Baizai's grandfather's request for me. Who knows that guy doesn't give any face. You can't kill the 3 Kyrians with so many people. Shuru Yukitaki looked at Zibo Heian sharply. I explained it. Be sure to keep him away from the women in our squad, especially Miyako. I said, handsome Yukitaki, can you not say such things so frankly in front of me? Yizan looked at Shuru Yukitaki, who was righteously speaking. I'm embarrassed to talk like this, okay? You know it's embarrassing, just stay away from the female players of our team. Shiro Yukitaki said, keep your distance. Don't be so heartless, Yi Xuanxian said secretly. After all, our relationship is closer than other captains, isn't it? Senior brother Tilda. Because it's your senior brother, I know you better than others. Shiro Yukitaki couldn't bear to look straight at him. I can't sit back and watch Meiyazi fall into your pit. What have I done? I want you to have such a misunderstanding of me. Yizan felt very wronged. Young and promising, tall and handsome, a man worth relying on. You can't deny this, right? At the same time, you have to add one more point, washing. Shiro Yukitaki's face was heavy. You misunderstood, Yizan said with a smile. I just take good care of girls and like to make friends with girls. At the same time, you and Kiraku have a lot in common, Yukitaki Shuru said. I said, you've been blocking me at the door for so long, can you invite me in to sit down? Yizan looked at Shuru. Senior brother sang, if you're not well, don't stand at the door and let the wind blow. This cheeky energy and Kiraku Chunsui's youth were really. Yukitaki Shuru couldn't think of refusing, so he could only take him to the captain's room. Instead of letting him touch Miyako furtively, he might as well stare at it himself. Seeing Shiro Yukitaki retreating, Yizan curled the corners of his mouth proudly. Meiyazi's tea is still so delicious. Yizan held the teacup and exclaimed with satisfaction. Captain Yizan has won the prize. Mizuno Miyako bowed her head slightly. but her ear tip was quietly hurting a little Yuhi's dizziness. This was embarrassment after being praised. Shiro Yukitake knew when she saw her expression, so he glanced at them back and forth, and sighed deeply. Originally, I was thinking of making a pair of Meiyazi and Heian, so that I can completely shake hands in the future. Yizan is really annoying. Shiro Yukitake glanced at Yizan, but when he met his smug look, he felt that he was about to commit his old problem. Chapter 132-require. Captain Fuju seems to be in a bad mood. Yizan looked at his unconcealed depression and wanted to laugh out loud. Why don't you tell me, maybe I can help you solve it. This guy Yizan is really very bad. Zibo Heian looked at Yizan in shock. Captain Fuju said it so clearly just now, but now he is still bringing up old things in front of the captain. Although Captain Yukitake was not in good health, he was also the captain who has stood firm since the foundation of the 13th Division of the Guardian. And the captain of the 13th Division has always been Shiro Yukitake, who is not in good health. As Yizan's friend, Zibo Heian felt that it was necessary to stop him from this courting behavior. Yizan, you're almost there. Zibo Heian desperately gave Yizan a wink. Yizan smiled slightly. I'm just joking with Captain Fuju, don't be so nervous. Shiro Yukitake snorted coldly, and was extremely speechless to himself, the vice captain. Eat inside and out. Not really. Elbow out. It really means something like that. The other hand, Yizan's skill in hooking up girls is really. Just after a while, how could Meiyazi be hooked up by him? Thanks to Shiro Yukitake's words, he just thought about it in his heart. Otherwise, if he knew that Zibo Heian, who he was optimistic about, had been a god assist, he might be so angry that he would take out Bankai, who had not used it once in hundreds of years. Am I right? Yizan looked around and pointed to his nose. Let me be in charge of chasing down the defecting captain. Shigekuni Yamamoto nodded affirmatively. Old man, I have a good relationship with Yi-Yi-song and a good relationship with Lisa. What does old man Yamamoto mean? Should I keep myself safe, or will I tell Yaiki where they are hiding if I feel pressured? Although I know, Yi-Yi didn't tell me, so theoretically I don't know. In the face of justice, all personal feelings should be abandoned. Yamamoto Shigekuni looked at Yizan seriously. As the captain of the 10th Division, you should understand this. Oh, and moral binding. So old man Yamamoto, you are just too busy to find something for me here, right? I didn't say I didn't understand. Yizan glanced at Yamamoto Shigekuni, but I just don't want it. The world is so big, how do I know where they are? Even if it's a hunt, at least you have to give me an accurate location. Huh. You won't be able to get it anyway. Because of Yizan's refusal, the atmosphere in the conference room became solemn. Yizan and Yamamoto Shigekuni looked at each other, and the eyes that could almost collide with sparks in midair made the other captains present under great pressure. Yizan is also right. Since they have escaped to reality, they will definitely not reveal any news for the Soul Society to find out. It is a waste of time to hunt them down. Jingle Chunshui said, what's more, Urahara Kazuki is in a foreign land. I like those bizarre studies. I must have found a way to hide the spiritual pressure, otherwise the 12th Division would not have been unable to detect their spiritual pressure. Quote. This is an unlimited time task. Yamamoto Shigekuni did not change his original intention. Those who betray the Soul Society must be wiped out. Okay, I see. Yizan pretended to be helpless and said, if there is news, I will hunt them down, right? Old people or something, it's really troublesome. After the meeting, Yamamoto Shigekuni kept Yizan behind. When he opened his mouth, the other captains looked at Yizan like a student looking at a classmate who was called into the office by the teacher. The look of sympathy and schadenfreude coexisted, so complicated that Yizan didn't know what kind of words to use. Describe. Yizan, what do you think of the captain's blurring incident? Yamamoto Shigekuni asked with a serious expression. To be honest, don't lie to me. Like everyone else, Yizan found a chair without any pressure and sat down. no idea. Yamamoto Shigekuni was so angry that he almost fell to his knees. If one of them appeared in front of you, would you catch them? Hey, this sounds a bit problematic. Yizan raised his eyebrows, and countless thoughts and guesses flashed through his mind in an instant. What if one of them appeared in front of me? Yizan raised his eyebrows. You may think that the 46th room of the central government is too harsh for the judgment of the virtual captains. Yamamoto Shigekuni clasped his hands and looked at Yizan deeply. Everyone at the gate bears human life, and they were together at the time. They were not the only ones on the scene, but they were the only ones who survived. They killed all the weak ones. Quote, I didn't expect Aizen's experiment to be so brutal. Yizan sighed in his heart, then nodded slightly. Did you not feel anything until this matter? If I have the chance to meet them, I will seize it. Yizan said solemnly, and said a promise that he did not intend to do at all. Yamamoto Shigekuni frowned. Yizan, I think you are still young, so I am still willing to teach you. I hope you will not disappoint me. Right. Did he know about Yi's search for me? Yizan frowned and said tentatively, have I done anything to disappoint you? Saifengyuan Yi took the initiative to leave the Soul World, because the relationship between Saifengyuan's family did not list her crimes. But that doesn't change the fact that she is a sinner in the Soul World. Well, sure enough I know. Yizan shook his head helplessly. The only ones who guessed this were Sakuba and Yuashiro. Of course that sister-in-law, Yuashiro, won't tell the truth, but it's broken B. A woman who loves to hate is really scary. Okay, I see, Yizan said, I will pay attention in the future. I hope you will do what you say. After all, I haven't settled the account with you for letting them go before, and you let Saifengyuan go away again. There is a clear warning in Shanbang Zongguo's words. If next time, I will punish you properly. So this time, it's old man Yamamoto, you've made a fool of yourself. Chapter 133 _ Take the opportunity to sneak. Yizan showed a clear expression on his face. If you say that, isn't that an accomplice? Yizan. Yamamoto Shigekuni was so angry that his veins burst out. Don't think that if I tolerate you once or twice, you can become more and more arrogant. There's no way, you're used to it. Yizan laughed, but what he said made Yamamoto Shigekuni's anger soar to the highest point in an instant, and then suddenly fell back. Go away. An angry roar came from Yamamoto Shigekuni's old and strong body. Several captains who were listening outside in the corner covered their ears. Being taught this way by the commander-in-chief was an exclusive treatment for Jingle. How do you feel when you find out that the teacher's love has changed? Shiro Yukitaki poked Jingle Chunshui with his elbow. The mood is very delicate. Jingle Chunshui helped up the hat that was frightened by Yamamoto Shigekuni's loud roar, but most of the time I'm glad. Every time I am called by old man Yamamoto, I end up with this kind of scene. I am also under a lot of pressure. Yizan walked out with his hands behind his back, and threw Yamamoto Shigekuni's roar behind his head. Even if you eavesdrop, you still have to make comments. What do you mean? Don't say that, we are also worried about you. Jingle Chunshui said with a smile. Believe in you. Yizan tilted his head slightly, glanced at him, and said in a low voice, actually, you are worried about what clues old man Yamamoto will get. Really let me go and catch Lisa and the others. After speaking, Yizan counted the captains who were sitting in rows. Byakuya Kuchiki, Yusuke Aizen, Chunsui Kyoraku, Shiruro Yukitaki. Uno no Hanaru. Why is Captain Ujiwa here? Yizan took a step back exaggeratedly, tidied up his clothes, and then grabbed his hair, as Captain Ujiwa worried about me too. No, I'm just curious about what the commander-in-chief asked you to do. Ujiwali said with a smile, it seems that there is nothing wrong. So you're worried about me. Yizan walked into Maojawali under the shocked eyes of the others and held his hand. It's my fault that you are worried. Floating bamboo, I seem to have seen something incredible. Jingle Chunshui was so surprised that his jaw dropped. Others don't know, he doesn't know. Although she is the captain of the medical team, her strength is a mysterious existence. The specific performance is that any man who dares to have any thoughts on her will die miserably in the end. Actually, I saw it too. Shuru Yukitake frowned, thinking that he only hooked up to his third seat not long ago, and now he's doing something with Captain Unoka. I can't get angry at all. Captain Yizan's charm is unmatched. Aizen pushed up his glasses. After all, you are the man I am optimistic about. Ujawali didn't care about everyone's surprised expression. If I hadn't agreed to the captain, I really wanted to try it with you. I will definitely not let you down. Yizan smiled, ambiguous and meaningful, no matter from which aspect. People listening in, I always feel that I have heard something remarkable. ... The mission of the virtual circle. Yizan shook his head. It happens that I haven't been to the virtual circle for a while, and this mission is exactly what I want equals. Yizan walked out of the captain's room and looked at the people who were doing daily training. Young people, go for a walk in the virtual circle with the boss. Virtual circle. Renji Asanjing and Yushiro Saifanyuan, who followed the 10th division to train, looked at Yizan with bright eyes. Brother, can we go too? Shifunjin Yushiro said expectantly. Of course. Yizan smiled warmly, and when the two little devils almost thought he was going to agree, he categorically refused. No. We won't hold back. Shifunjin Yushiro patted his heart and assured, I will never cry. Is there anything to be proud of if you don't cry? Yizan gave him a white look. Two little devils who don't even have Zanpakuto, still want to go to the virtual circle. What are you kidding? Big brother. Yizan ignored his pleas and turned to look at Zibo Yixin. You decide the list and leave in an hour. Yes. Zibo nodded in agreement, and asked again, what is the mission this time? Knowing the specifics, I can easily choose the personnel. Assist the 12th division to go to the virtual circle to measure the spiritual child. Yizan chuckled. The spiritual pressure of the virtual circle has fluctuated a lot recently. Got it, Zibo said solemnly. Then, that's it. Yizan shrugged. Just make arrangements carefully. Yes. Avoid night. Lord Yizan. Wukiora looked at Yizan standing in the corridor in surprise. When did you come? It's just arrived. Yizan smiled. Gong Yi in the virtual night after the virtual circle, who knew that this opportunity would come so quickly. It was an accident to actually encounter a sudden arrest when passing through the boundary. But also because of this, you can get away without looking for any reason. In this way, it doesn't matter if it disappears for a while. After all, it's not surprising what happens in the broken world. At that time, I can go to the world for a walk, and then say that when the sudden came, find a random direction to escape, and I accidentally ran into it. Present. I'm so smart. Of the broken world. Niyuli held her mask, and 1.8 feet's sullen feelings could be felt by others even through the mask. Obviously, after a precise calculation, the detention should have passed 2 days ago. How could it be possible? This is unreasonable. Captain, the question now is, how to explain it to the face. The captain of the 10th division is gone. The members of the 12th division were crying. Are we going back to find him now? You just escaped from it. Forgot. Niyuli looked at the space behind him. The hole they came out from was closed, and it was obvious that there was no way to go back. It's really troublesome. Shiba looked at Nimayuri with a gloomy expression. Is there a solution? It's not like you don't know that being caught up by you two in the boundary, there is only one end. Chapter 134 Zanpakuto's request. Captain is not the kind of man who will die easily. Zibo said here. His face turned from cloudy to sunny. Isn't there a saying that good people don't live long, and disasters will last for thousands of years? The third seat of the 10th division, Maya Teroyotaro looked at Shiba Heian speechlessly. Vice Captain, it will be very miserable for the captain to hear this. That's why I just said it secretly. Ha ha ha. Zibo scratched his hair. Just don't tell him. Everyone in the 12th division, who was very nervous because of the unexpected accident, looked at the 10th division Reaper who was not worried at all. They really have confidence in Captain Yizan. It's also possible that they just got separated. There are not no people who have escaped detention in history. Maybe stuck somewhere waiting for rescue. So I still have to ask for support from above. I feel that the bonus is completely hopeless. Just when they were worried about the missing Yizan was sitting in Aizen's research room, studying his Zanpakuto. He is also very curious about the power that can turn the god of death into 30. Can people's strength be greatly improved? What is the effect? For example, the male protagonist Ichigo Kurosaki is obviously a weak chicken, and if he disagrees, he will become virtual. When the false mask comes out, his strength directly soars to an unbelievable level, right? Counterattack and beat him in minutes. If it weren't for the fact that there was no death god available for experiments in Zai Palace, Yizan also wanted to get one to try. However, if there are no experimental items, it is better to look at the experimental records than nothing. Yizan muttered to himself, and began to turn over the neatly stacked experimental materials. The latest experimental data on Bleach is the time of the betrayal of the belly. Aizen concluded that the will was lost and it was a complete failure. The remarks are the various defects of the blur, and then also note that Kazuki Urahara's collapse jade has the ability to perfect the blur. Obviously, he has already been reminded. Yizan shook his head helplessly, holding down Zanpakuto who had been trembling ever since he entered this room. How excited are you? You are not doing anything but pretending to be dead. Will it? After saying this, his eyes darkened, and the whole person was pulled into a void space. Xiao Weiwei, this is the first time you have taken the initiative to seek me out. Are you asking for me? Yizan looked at the Yuhi-haired man who was a step away from him with a half-smile. Don't call me that disgusting word. Yao Raihui frowned. Dear, find out, I am your master, and you have no right to refuse whatever you want to call you. You. Yao Raihui was speechless. Tell me, what's the matter? You, Shikai, don't know anything. Isn't it my fault, Shikai? Yao Raihui pouted. You blame me yourself. Bah. Although you are my sword soul, I have never been soft on provocative guys. Yizan blew his fist against Fei Yao Raihui. There's a lot of power in that room, and I need it. The man with Yuhi hair rubbed his cheek, which was punched short, and simply couldn't get up from sitting on the ground. Yizan raised his eyebrows slightly. Very powerful. In Aizen's laboratory, the only one who can meet this condition is his failed semi-finished jade. However, you can't listen to all the words of the soul of the sword. After the soul of the sword has gained power, there are many things that go back to the master. I know what you're talking about. Yizan said lightly, but why should I give it to you? I am your knife. Yao Raihui said angrily. That's the power that can turn the god of death into a phantom. Who knows if Zanpakuto will also become a phantom? Yizan gave him a white look. Am I going to fight with a phantom in the future? Are you timid? Yao Raihui looked at Yizan defiantly. Actually, you are afraid. I'm not afraid. Yizan ignored his provocation, but I still use that thing. Why should I give you this disobedient knife? I can't tell you. Yizan looked at him. I want to ask me for something, but my attitude is not right. What kind of person is I really good to talk about? Yao Raihui looked at Yizan hesitantly, with a tangled expression. Give you 10 minutes, I'm in a hurry. Yizan said lightly. Let me think about it. Yao Raihui said helplessly. 10 minutes later. I'm leaving. I said. It's better to say no earlier, and I have to mess with Lousy. Then tell me, Yizan said lightly. I'm not like the other Zanpakuto and need that power to evolve. Evolution. Yizan raised his eyebrows in surprise. Can the knife evolve? Other knives can't, but I can. It's not because of you that I can't, Shikai, and it's not because I don't want to. The Yuhi-haired knives covered his face tangled. It's just that I don't have Shikai's abilities. Really? What do I have to lie to you? Yao Raihui asked back. I didn't know until now that although my sword soul looks like a powerful existence, it is actually a weak chicken. Yizan raised his eyebrows. By the way, why should I believe you? Are you afraid that I will beat you after I get that one? After telling the secret that he had been trying to cover up, Yao Raihui had obviously given up on himself, and even said the words that he would never be able to beat Yizan. So you actually have this self-knowledge. Yizan made no secret of his surprise. I thought you were going to be stubborn to death. I've already told you anyway, if you want me to never be able to shikai, I don't care about you. Yao Raihui said this in a dull tone, and the next moment, the void in front of Yizan dissipated. In this case, I have to take away the research results of Aizen first. Yizan looked at the blob of blue objects in a strange instrument not far away. Unlike Urahara Kazuki's collapsing jade, although this one is also called collapsing jade, it is still a mass of unknown substance that has not condensed into a substance. So how do you use it? Yizan stared at the group of things that seem to have life. If you touch it with your hands, it might become empty. That's not fun. Chapter 135-Exploding Night Palace. I don't have any plans to make a fool of myself. Yizan leaned on the experimental table and reached out to press his zanpakudo. How do you do this? He wasn't joking when he said this. Thinking about it carefully, the feasibility of this idea is still very high. What's the best way to get power? Of course, eat, drink, and in short, make this power your own. If the one who wants to get power is a knife, then there is no way to use this conventional method, so there is only one way left. Yizan looked down at his zanpakudo and slowly pulled it out. If it turns into something strange, maybe I can only change a zanpakudo. Yizan felt a little entangled. By the way, zanpakudo should be able to be exchanged, right? Excessive. I won't become anything strange. When Yizan was talking to himself, zanpakudo made a tremor, and Yao Raihui's voice sounded in Yizan's mind. Yizan sneered, and directly inserted the blade into the container used by Lanyanwuyuji to store the collapsed jade. Thorn. A slight cracking sound sounded, and the yuhi-colored blade sank into the center of Bengyu accurately. Collapsing jade began to shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye. In contrast, zanpakudo's increasingly yuhi-colored blade. Like soaked in blood, it will melt at any time. Bengyu is also a self-conscious existence. Will it be absorbed so easily, willing to become a part of zanpakudo? Of course not. When nearly a third of it was absorbed, Bengyu, who had been unresponsive, finally started to resist. I saw that a few thin lines burst out one after another in the blue spirit, and they were tightly wrapped around zanpakudo. After a while, the part of zanpakudo in the container was completely wrapped and invisible. Yizan stared at zanpakudo closely and rubbed his hands nervously. After all, this is a collapsing jade. Although it is only a semi-finished product, it is still a good thing to be able to obtain the power in it. It's just that the current scene seems to be a little bit dangerous. Why not absorb it? Yizan frowned and looked at his zanpakudo. No way. I cried to get power, and ended up dying so weakly. As Yizan's voice fell, the container carrying the Bengyu trembled, and it began to crack from where it was broken by zanpakudo. Kala. Kiba's sour voice echoed in the empty and dead room. I heard that Yizan is back. Grimjow hurried over from the other end of the corridor and asked Ulquiorra, who was waiting outside the door. Ulquiorra glanced at him lightly and nodded. Well, what's going on in here? Grimjow pressed his whole body to the door, pricked up his ears and listened to what was going on inside. There seems to be something wrong. When did Yizan like to do experiments like that guy Lanran? Already. Ulquiorra did not respond to his self-talk, but looked at the closed door with a little more prudence. Bah! A white shadow flashed past, and Grimjow, who was originally attached to the door, flew out without any warning, fell into the empty white corridor of the Void Night Palace, and tragically rolled several times. Ulquiorra. Grimjow took it for granted that standing not far away, other than himself, Ulquiorra pulled his hand and looked at him angrily. As a result, he saw that he was holding the wall beside him with one hand, and his claws left long scratches on the wall. Not right. Grimjow thought to himself, then got up from the ground, and after walking a few steps, he realized that the closer to the gate, the stronger the force of the recoil. Just now, he was blown away by the sudden burst of power. What the hell is going on inside? Grimmjow inserted his fingers into the wall, following Ulquiorra's example, but as the frontal force grew stronger, he and Ulquiorra were swept away together. As a powerful virtual that ranks first in the virtual circle, it is very embarrassing to be thrown out in front of everyone's eyes. Grimmjow got up from the ground again in embarrassment, and wanted to go back to his previous shame. Just standing outside the laboratory door, is it so difficult? He thought indignantly, and when he turned around, he saw Ulquiorra turned his head and walked in the opposite direction. Ulquiorra, are you afraid? Grimmjow protested proudly. I'm not like you, I'm going back now, but it's a strange power, what's the big deal? I don't believe it yet. Stupid. Ulquiorra paused and let out a faint sneer. Not long after he left, Aizen's laboratory was finally overwhelmed. Collapsed. Yizan did not suffer any damage under the effect of the spiritual shield, and even the Captain Yuri on his body was as white as if he had just been washed, but the mess around him formed a sharp contrast to his neatness. Aizen's laboratory was built in the underground of Zai Palace. Now because of the explosion of Benyu and Zanpakuto's power just now, the whole thing exploded, so it turned into a hemispherical pit. The only thing that was not attached to Beisha was Yi Xuanchazi. This space with a radius of no more than 5 meters. And the reason why this space is not covered by quicksand is because Zanpakuto and Benyu are constantly releasing their power. The container that stored the collapsing jade has been destroyed just now, and now the collapsing jade is directly exposed to the air. The power that was not well restrained was naturally exposed without any pressure. This is very embarrassing. Yizan frowned. There will still be a god of death in the soul realm. What's the matter? The curiosity of Niyuli will rush over in minutes. In fact, just as Yizan had guessed, Niyuli was howling to come over to find out, but the other members of the 12th Division held him tightly. It's a joke, you can't hold it. Captain, wait, the reinforcements from the Soul Society haven't come yet. The captain of the 10th Division has disappeared, and now we can't act rashly. If you rush over like this, if the other party is Wang Shu, we can't afford it. Chapter 136-Tough. When will the reinforcements from the Soul Society arrive? Niyuli had a team member hanging from his left leg, a team member on his right leg, and another around his waist. Although the expression on his face was covered by a strange mask, it was obvious that won't be great. It should be coming soon. The reply from there will have to wait for Jutu to pass. The member of the 12th Division who was in charge of the monitoring of the spiritual child looked like he was about to cry, and desperately winked at the 3 members who were in charge of stopping Nimayuri. At this time, the peak on the radio wave map has soared to an incredible height. Although there is still a big gap from the power that swept the soul world, the virtual circle and the present world that was monitored many years ago, it is still a terrifying existence. At least, it's definitely not something that these people can handle. If this is a virtual Reiatsu, I am afraid that at least half of the leaders of the Jingling Court will be able to fight it. Soul World, the 12th Division. What is this? Photograph the ugly green monster with eyes the size of tennis balls that almost touched the screen. Another virtual circle. I heard you calling as soon as I came, and someone was sent from above to ask, did you pass by? Ajin asked indifferently, what happened to the virtual circle 560? Look for yourself. Bujo's fingers danced quickly on the keyboard, and the 2 eyeballs on the natural disaster screen haven't been retracted. Shutu will pass in half an hour. I'm investigating the source of this spiritual power fluctuation, leave me alone. What? Ajin put Kabuto's hands in his hands, looked at the computer screen coolly, and then opened his eyes slightly. This is. Just when Bujo tried his best to find the exact location, the power contest between Yizan Zanpakuto and Benyu came to an end. An unknown substance of blue-purple wrapped the radiant radiance in it, and then gradually shrank, and finally the two merged into a strange object mixed with Yuhi blue. The outgoing spiritual child also disappeared in an instant, and all the power was shrouded in it. inside this weird group. So, what is this? Yizan looked at the strangely colored object in front of him. Like a poisonous object, what I threw in was a knife, and a person came out. I'm not surprised, a person came out. Knife, that's normal, but this. Moldy dough. Yizan reached out his hand hesitantly, but in the end he couldn't hold back his curiosity and tapped the surface of the thing with his fingers. Bump hard. Stone. Yizan was speechless. Hey, Yao Raihui. Say something. Half a sound, no response. Then, Bangyu, say something. Half a sound, still no movement. Well, Yizan clapped his hands and walked around the thing twice. What about getting stronger? What about Shikai? What about upgrading? Is it like this, a stone? Yizan looked down at the strange mixture of Zanpakuto and Bangyu floating in the air. Even if the brick is an artifact, I don't want to throw stones at people when others are handsome and draw their swords, okay? It's too low. Suddenly, Yizan stopped his contempt for this object, and put on a cold expression of pretense. Big brother. The next moment, Ulquiorra's deserted and hollow voice sounded not far away. Yizan nodded slightly, without making any more expressions. Death may come soon, you guys can deal with it. Yizan didn't say who can kill, who has the boring question of whether or not to kill. If he is not strong enough, he will die. This is the default rule of the god of death. Of course, if the girl was injured in front of him, he would still be unable to help him. At this time, in the 5th Division captain's room, Aizinto Yusuke paced back and forth irritably. He sensed the explosion at the first time in the laboratory in Zai Palace, but because Yizan was missing, all the captains were meeting in the conference room of the first team just now. Now Zakagi Kenpachi and Komamura Zojun are being held. Sent to the virtual circle to support, the Soul Society suddenly lost 4 captains. Under such circumstances, the other Captain Sui needs to undertake more tasks, and even if he has the ability of Jingwashueyu, he is now incapable of being cloned. Yizan is missing, the virtual circle, the virtual night palace, the laboratory. Collapsed jade. Aizen linked several things together, and suddenly had a bad guess. For example, Yizan is curious about the power of collapsing jade and wants to try it out for himself. After all, he has shown an unusual interest in Bangyu from a long time ago. However, I shouldn't be so rash as to experiment with myself. Aizen flipped through the stack of documents on the table. Is it experimenting with other Shinigami who went with me? Or is it illusory? Aizen thought of this. Her hand tightened, and the document he was holding in his hand suddenly crumpled. Yizan, will he do experiments? Obviously not. Captain. Ichimaru Silver's voice sounded outside the door. Aizen smoothed the folds on the document and looked up at the smiling Ichimaru Silver. Silver, what's the matter? I heard that the captain of the 10th Division has disappeared in Duanji. I came to the captain to confirm the news. Ichimaru Silver's smile has never been so sincere as it is now. Good news. Bad news. Aizen said with an inexplicable expression. Since you have time to care about this kind of thing, why don't you help me deal with these documents? Captain, I'm not you. I won't be able to process these documents until next month. Ichimaru Silver shook his head exaggeratedly, took a few steps back and tried to run away. When he turned his head, Aizen was already standing behind him. Then do what you can handle. Aizinto Yusuke still had the sincere expression on his face, but it made Ichimaru Silver's back cold for no reason. It seems that Aizen is very unhappy about Yizan's disappearance. A thoughtful look flashed across Ichimaru Silver's face. He thought he was covering it up well, but Aizen still found out. What is Silver thinking? Ichimaru Silver squinted and smiled. I was thinking, why did Captain Aizen seem unhappy when he heard that Captain Yizan was doing it? Aizinto Yusuke pointed to the desk prepared for the vice captain on the side, and motioned Ichimaru Silver to handle official business obediently. He is very worried about the safety of his collapsed jade now, and he has no patience to make up any excuses. Chapter 137_Soul Reinforcement. Boss. Zaragi Kenpachi started shouting from the moment he entered the boundary realm, until he came out of the boundary realm, and when he saw Zeebo Yixin, his face suddenly pulled down. Where's my eldest brother? Zaragi Kenpachi grabbed Shiba Ishin's collar. I don't know. Zeebo looked at the famous fighting maniac in Jingling Court with a bitter face. I haven't seen the captain since I came out of the boundary. It's useless. Zakagi Kenpachi sneered. Zeebo Yixin felt that he was wronged, but it was also true that he lost the captain. He sighed, but did not refute Zeebo Yixin's words. It's really touching brotherhood, Komamura Zojun said with emotion. Captain Newly, do you have any opinion on this matter? For example, where will Captain Yizan go? There are only two possibilities for this matter. Niyuli shook his fingers mysteriously. 1. He was caught up by Yutu and was crushed into a spiritual child. As soon as these words were finished, Kenpachi Zengeki and Zeebo said in unison, impossible. So there is a second possibility. He left another passage, and the landing place is different from ours. Niyuli continued, however, the second possibility is 1 in 1,000. It must be somewhere else, maybe he has returned to the soul realm. Zaragi Kenpachi didn't care about the 1,000th chance that Niyuri said, and said decisively. It's not possible to return to the soul realm. Zeebo added, we came from the soul realm, and it is impossible to go back. Maybe it's somewhere else in the virtual circle. Just now we detected a very powerful wave of spiritual pressure. Maybe it has something to do with Captain Yizan. Why don't we go take a look? Captain, that kind of fluctuating spirit is not a level that humans can achieve. The 12th Division team member in charge of spirit detection did not hesitate to expose his own captain's thoughts. Captain is just the source of that spirit's fluctuation. I was curious, so I just made an excuse for the two captains to check it out together. Quote. Even if I do think so, is it necessary for you to say it? Niyuli looked at the team member who exposed his plan. Compared to the safety of a captain, this kind of spiritual fluctuation that is enough to affect the stability of the soul world is not enough. It's something we should be investigating as a priority. The task we received is to find the boss. There is no need to investigate any spiritual power, you can do it yourself. Zakagi Kenpachi folded his arms and said in a tone of indifference. If you choose here, you will definitely be moved by this little brother's loyalty. At least more loyal than the soul of the dead. But at this moment, he was in a certain room in Zai Palace, staring at the combination of Bengyu and Zanpakuto. Whether it's kicking or kicking, he has tried it, and even the ghosts can't break this thing, and calling the soul of the sword has no response. Is this a failure of evolution? Yizan flexed his fingers and buckled the hard skin of this thing. I really have no face to do such a thing as hitting someone with a brick. Yao Raihui, Shalweiwei, you really have to give some reaction. Believe it or not, I have destroyed your humanity. Of course that thing wouldn't react. Yizan scratched his hair, feeling that he couldn't stay in the Zai Palace any longer. It's not a problem for the death gods who came to the virtual circle together. Ulquiorra and the others always have a way to prevent them from approaching. Even if they really let them go to the virtual night palace, he has countless ways to prevent them from discovering. But after a long time, that guy from Aizen should come over. If Yao Raihui successfully absorbed Bengyu, that guy would have nothing to say. He couldn't beat him anyway, and the people with big fists in this world would still talk. But now, completely shameless to see that there is wood in the younger brother. Yizan imagined that Aizen might try his best to maintain it, but he couldn't hide his shocked expression. Maybe he would ask something like Grimjow's winking guy, where's your Zanpakuto? Can't even say that he made a mistake, and he finished playing Bengyu and Zanpakuto together. Will that guy from Aizen collapse? Yizan shook his head and sighed. Ulquiorra, open a virtual hole for me. Yi Xuanchang waved to Ulquiorra, who was waiting not far away, the empty town in this world. In addition to Aizen, I am afraid that only Urahara Kazuki can solve this kind of research. It just so happens that those guys still owe them favors, so they just went to collect interest. As a younger brother, Ulquiorra is obviously very qualified, because he never talks much. Even if his eyes stayed on the strange object in Yizan's arms for a few more seconds, he didn't ask, but just created a virtual hole in the air according to Yizan's request. Do you need me to accompany you? No need. Yizan waved his hand. If Lan Ran comes over, tell him. Bangyu is a failure anyway, so I'll use it first and let him build a new one himself. After explaining without any pressure, Yizan took a long leg and walked into the virtual hole. Bangyu, Ulquiorra blinked his inorganic eyes. Turn around and leave after the virtual hole is closed. At the same time, Zaraki Kenpachi and others were on their way to the Zai Palace, because the remaining staff of the 12th Division of Quark's Soul Realm had already reported the change of the spirits in the virtual circle. Yamamoto Shigekuni immediately made a decision. It was decided to suspend the search for Yizan, and first find out the reason for the change in the spirit child. The report from the 12th Division reminded him of something that had been haunting his mind but never brought up. The force that swept the three realms 2 years ago. Although the fluctuation of the spiritual child this time is not so severe, it also happened in the virtual circle, but this makes people feel uneasy. As for Yizan, good people don't live long, and scourges are left for thousands of years. It shouldn't be so easy to die. Let him wait longer. In front of the big situation, he doesn't even care about his own life, let alone a promising apprentice. At the same time, in the virtual circle, the expressions of the gods of death who followed the previous spiritual power fluctuations to find their way became more and more strange. The direction we're going. Chapter 138_The Present. Coming out of that hellish place, the sun in this world is so bright that it makes people want to cry. Yizan got out of the virtual hole, jumped lightly on the roof of a house, stretched his muscles and bones, and then began to look around. Where is the Urahara store? Yizan looked at the environment that was slightly different from the imagined high-tech modern city. After all, it was 100 years before the plot, and the town of Kakuza was still very retro. The houses on the street were almost identical to the Urahara store that was out of tune with the surrounding at the time of the plot. To put it simply, Yizan seems to be unable to find Kazuki Urahara and the others through the appearance of the building. Then, another problem is, he doesn't seem to be able to confuse Kazuki Urahara. He must be here. However, his worries didn't last long as Kazuki Urahara showed up soon after. Captain Yizan. Urahara Kazuki had already changed into his impressive green clothes at this time, as well as the green striped hat that made people look unbearable. How does it feel to wear a cuckold? Yizan didn't show any surprise. I never expected to see Urahara-san again in such clothes. You really didn't let me down. In fact, this is what Yizan really wanted to say. Urahara Kazuki put on his hat embarrassedly. Compared to this, I am more curious about why Captain Yizan appeared here, or came out of the virtual hole. It's because of an accident. Yizan shrugged. I managed to escape from the detention, and I met an old friend from the Soul Society, so you're not going to invite me home to sit next to you. Urahara Kazuki clenched the stick in his hand. Obviously don't trust yourself. Yizan came to this conclusion with some subtlety, and could only say, don't worry, if I want to arrest you, you won't have time to confront me, so I'm not here to arrest you. I will appear here, just a coincidence. I can make up a reason so seriously, Urahara sang, you should be moved. Yizan looked at Kazuki Urahara who was obviously relaxed, and shook his head slightly. Of course, it's just the right time to meet you. I want to ask you for help with something. Urahara Kazuki was stunned, and looked at Yizan in surprise. I am an exile, how can I help you? It's a coincidence, if you can't help me in this matter, maybe no one can help me. Yizan said with emotion. That guy Aizen might be able to do it, but seeing me tossing his precious Benyu like this, I'm probably going to be mad, so I don't expect it. You're really not going to take me to where you're staying. It's a big deal. It's not good to say it like that. ... Is this what you said? It involves something important. Urahara Kazuki looked at the stone that Yizan put on the table. Yes, it was a stone. Except that it can float 10 centimeters above the tabletop. This thing is no different from a stone. At the first sight of this, Urahara Kazuki was indeed attracted by its unusual appearance and studied it seriously. But according to his research conclusion, this thing with Yuhi's blue and white pattern and floating on its own is actually an ordinary stone. In addition to looking strange, but also floating. Then did you see what this is? Yizan looked at Kazuki Urahara awkwardly. Research failed. A new type of toy. Urahara Kazuki's expression. I don't understand why you are so cautious, isn't it? Of course. No. Yizan bit Kiba and said under the gazes of Saifeng Yuan Yaiki and Waling Tizai, actually, this is my Zanpakuto. Poof, underscore. Saifeng Yuan Yi let out a faceless smile. Your Zanpakuto. She laughed exaggeratedly, patting the table hard. Are you sure this is Zanpakuto? I'm not very sure now. Yizan said mutely, you are a woman, can you be like a woman? Boy, you are taking care too much. Saifeng Yuan slapped the table heavily at night. You think we are so boring in this world, are we here to make jokes? Although being laughed at was expected, but Yizan's uncontrollable smile still made Yizan feel very uncomfortable. The other party is a woman. He said to himself like this. Although he looks a little like a man, he is indeed a woman. It's like making a woman laugh. Although neither a beauty nor a girl. Fortunately, men don't laugh at such boring things. For example, do Ritsusai and Urahara Kazuki laugh as exaggeratedly as she does? Are you sure? This is your Zanpakuto. After hearing Yizan's words, Urahara Kazuki studied the stone in front of him very seriously, and asked after a while, are you sure there is no mistake? I watched it become like this with my own eyes, can I make a mistake? Yizan raised his eyebrows, what did your friends see? This is the first time in the history of Soul Society that Zanpakuto has turned into stone. Urahara Kazuki shook his head, why don't you tell me what happened before Zanpakuto changed? What happened was that Lao Su listened to the words of Sword Soul and threw him into the container of Bengyu. But can I tell you this? It can't be. Yizan thought for a while, and a flash of light flashed in his mind. We started from Soul Realm and escorted the 12th Division to Void Circle 2.3 to investigate the fluctuations of the spirits. By the way, we killed 2 phantoms to maintain the balance between Soul Realm and Void Circle. Having said that, Yizan started without changing his face. He started to make up nonsense, but when we passed through the boundary, we encountered a slap in the face. In order to avoid that thing, I and others got separated. After that, I came to a space that I didn't know where it was. Then I poked a Zanpakuto on something that looked a little weird. Urahara Kazuki nodded. You mean, after Zanpakuto stabbed that thing, it became what it is now? Positive solution, that's it. Yizan expressed his satisfaction with Kazuki Urahara's statement of automatic completion. Can you describe what it's like to have your Zanpakuto turn into something like this? Chapter 139 arrive at the Night Palace. A mass of unknown objects, blue-violet, like a polymer of spiritual seeds, with spiritual pressure. Yizan calmly began to describe the blue-dyed collapsing jade, it's almost like this. Do you have any ideas? Urahara Kazuki looked at the group in front of him tangled. This kind of situation has never happened in the Soul Society, I need to check it. Then test it. Yizan nodded without any pressure. Anyway, the reason was pushed to be on G, even if he noticed something, it couldn't compare. Who made the passages in the broken world unpredictable, without the guidance of the hell butterfly? If you walk casually, you will get lost in minutes. So Urahara Kazuki walked away with that thing in his hand. Miss Yi, you haven't seen me for so long, do you miss me? Are you teasing me? Saifeng Yuan raised her eyebrows in the night, a change of taste. I'm concerned about you, okay. Yi Xuanzhang said wisely, I'm the kind who treats you as a buddy with sincerity and will never be mixed with water. 30 inches it's a ghost if you believe in you. Saifeng Yuan Yi exaggeratedly flipped through Byakugan, the guy whose eyes go straight when he sees a woman. Yizan raised his eyebrows and looked at the knight of Sifeng, selectively ignoring the super light bulb on the side. Wu Ling Taijai. When you say so much, you are actually dissatisfied with my failure to express my love for you, right? Yizan said so. After Yizan said these words, Sifeng Yi turned into a black cat in an instant, and then gave Yizan a cat scratching with a quick action. Yizan quickly grabbed Yi's black cat. Eldest sister, don't make trouble. Last time it was because of the 2 scratches that you always rewarded me, both Broby and your brother saw it. Broken bee. Sifeng raised his eyebrows and looked at Yizan at night. This scratch will disappear within 2 hours, so how could the broken bee see it? Ah, Yizan touched his nose. Because Lao Su hooked up with a girl from your Tsunere, what do you think? Although Yizan thought so in his heart, he still hadn't made up his mind to say it in front of Sifeng Yi. Although it wasn't that he couldn't beat her, who knows if the women would be jealous. Besides, the somewhat subtle master-servant relationship between Yi and Broken Bee. Yizan clapped his hands lightly. Hey, it's actually like this, it's just that the Broken Bees asked me to talk about official business. I don't know, when did the secret mobile team have any overlapping official duties with the 10th Division, and it was so important that the 2 captains needed to meet and talk. Of course. Yizan suddenly paused. Big sister, can you change back first? It feels like talking to a man, do you know that? For what Yizan said, Sifeng Yi responded with 2 Byakugan again. If you change back, do you know where your hand is on me? With a low male voice saying what he had already pointed out, Yizan followed the black cat's line of sight and lowered his head to look at his hand. Speaking of which, if your voice is male, is the cat you changed into male or female? The 3 scratches on the neck are Sifeng Yi's response to Yizan's question. ... Washted. Zaraki Kenpachi looked at Fu who was blocking their way. It looks pretty good. Our goal is to investigate the spiritual movement, not to fight. Ni Yuli said dissatisfiedly. You have to fight and stay by yourself, let's go. Captain, are you kidding? That's Vastad. The members of the 12th Division were about to cry. This newly appointed captain, compared with the former captain who has been exiled as a dangerous person, this one is obviously more dangerous, right? The Void King is in front, and it is forbidden to approach. Even in the face of so many death gods, Ulquiorra's voice did not have any bullying, and it seemed that there was no emotion at all. Void King. Komamura Zojun looked at the white building in the distance, and put his hand on Zanpakuto. It's actually on the throne. In this case, we have to fight. If it was just one Vastord, the 3 captains and 1 vice-captain present would have no problem dealing with it. Are you Balagang? Ni Yuli finally woke up from the inexplicable excitement and looked straight at Ulquiorra. At this time, 2 more virtual figures gradually entered in the distance. The god of death. Grimjow remembered from a distance. Ulquiorra, it's disrespectful for you to run out alone. It seems to be a mistake. Ni Yuli said indifferently. Ulquiorra, a name I haven't heard before. Hey, what are you doing? Record it. Don't memorize it. Zaragi Kenpachi stared at Ulquiorra with his eyes full of fighting intent. There is no need to memorize the name of a Kugo who will die soon. There are 2 Yachukas in the back. Zebo reminded. Although he usually acts like a second hand, and is actually a second hand, he has always been very serious and cautious when facing battles. There are so many 163s in front of us, maybe there are more hidden in the dark without showing their faces. He said this, completely abandoning the 2 captains who had fallen into battle frenzy and inexplicable persistence, and looked at the only one who seemed to be pretty normal Kimura left formation. Already within the confines of the throne. The meaning of this Vastord seems to be just not to let us get close to that palace. Komamura Zojun said cautiously, if we approach rashly, I am afraid there will be a fierce battle. What are you afraid of? I'm going to fight this guy. Zaragi Kenpachi couldn't listen to the words of Komamura Zojun and Shiba Ishin at all. As for Ni Yuri, That guy had already ignored the shouts of the team members behind him and ran towards Zai Palace. Zebo wholeheartedly looked at Kenpachi Zakagi, who drew his sword, fell behind Niyuri, and shouted, "Captain, there is danger over there." The members of the 12th Division covered their faces silently. Suddenly I feel that the missing captain of my family is very reliable. How can I break it? At least he's not a fighting maniac, he's not a science maniac, and he doesn't carry a barrel on his head. If the captain was here at this time, at least Kenpachi Zakagi would listen to him, right? Seeing the two Achukas walking in gradually, Shiba put his hand on the hilt of the knife with all his heart. Chapter 140_Show Affection. The weather is really nice today, everyone, long time no see. Yizan smiled and waved to the former captains and vice-captains who were sparsely sitting around. Did you miss me? Not at all, Tsuruuki Hiyori said impatiently. Why are you here? That's a long story. Yizan shrugged. Anyway, despite the repeated requests from old man Yamamoto, I still resisted the pressure and definitely didn't mean to tell you your whereabouts. What did Captain Yamamoto ask for? Hiroko Mako frowned. Or the punishment from the 46th room of the central government? Of course. Yizan nodded. Because he teamed up to let you go. Yi ran away again, and now I'm the focus of surveillance. So, how did Captain Yizan hide from the many gods of death in the soul world under surveillance and successfully come to the world? Pingzi Junzi looked at Yizan with a relaxed face. I won't wait for us to go out to see this. Has the neighborhood been surrounded by the Shinigami of Gote 13? I'm so timid, I still don't believe it if I promise it like this. Yizan shook his head helplessly. Of course I have my own way. Okay, let me tell you the truth. In fact, my mission this time is to assist the 12th Division to investigate the fluctuations of the ghosts in the virtual circle. Simply put, it is protect their meaning. Yizan glanced at everyone's faces full of doubts, and a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Then we encountered Jutu when we were breaking the boundary, and I ran away from the others, and I won't say what happened in the middle. In short, I found a phantom in the boundary, and then I killed the phantom. Came out of its hollow hole. It's really a coincidence. Ikawa Luowu looked at Yizan with a dull expression. However, your luck is very good. You can still come back alive if you encounter a kudu in the broken world. Shall we hold a banquet? To celebrate. What are you celebrating, Baldy? Hiyori Saraki took off his sneakers and gave Ikawa Luowu a look. Do you have any self-consciousness as a fugitive from Jingling Court? What's the use of consciously coming? Ikawa Luowu touched the spot where he was hit by the sneakers. We are here, and Jingling Court won't know. Kenchi, Ross, let's buy wine. Go, don't hesitate, walk around, it's been a long time since you were happy. So you're not celebrating Yizan's surviving Yutu, you just want to have a cocktail party. Fengchao Lujiro, who gave himself a foreign name, looked at the excited Ikawa Luowu with contempt. Even if after coming to this world, you will be a little bored, so you shouldn't be like this, right? I said, do you have to say it when you are present? Ikawa Luowu looked at him helplessly. After the three people walked away noisily, Pingzi Junzi scratched his hair and pointed at him. Captain Yizan, please find a seat and sit down. We are in poor conditions here, sorry. The empty and dusty underground space, a few tattered sofas. It's still a compliment to say that the conditions are not good. Yizan rolled his eyes and saw Lisa Yazumaru, who was sitting with Ju Nanbai, at a glance. Although she pretended not to be looking at herself, the gaze that wandered over inadvertently. Yizan smiled clearly and walked over. Miss Lisa, long time no see. When Ju Nanbai saw Yizan coming, he immediately stood up and vacated his position to Yizan, while exaggeratingly said, you guys talk, I remember. I have other things. Then, Yizan saw her running to the side in a hurry. She is very interesting. Yizan sat down beside Lisa Yahomaru. Miss Lisa, long time no see. Yahomaru Lisa nodded slightly, in response to what Yizan said, but she didn't look like she was going to speak. The skirt on her body was about to crumple. Yizan calmly looked at Yazumaru Lisa's tangle, and had no intention of saving her from the tangle at all. The way the girl is helpless is really pleasing to the eye. However, not everyone appreciates this scene, at least for the vast majority of singles present. Looking directly at a couple flirting is a cruel thing, even if they haven't said a word. Spicy eyes. Tsuruuki Hiyori said, I feel like I can't see my eyes anymore, Hirako, don't you think? Hearing Hiyori Surakiki's words, Hirako Meiko looked around vigilantly, sniffed the air forcefully, and said nervously, There's nothing wrong with Hiyori, can you still see it now? Then, Yizan watched an infighting happen with his own eyes. It was really inhumane. In the roar of, Balko Hirako. In Hayo Tsuruuki, Yizan lightly held Lisa Yahomaru's hand. Miss Lisa, are they always like this? Thank you for your hard work. It's okay. Before Yahomaru Lisa's words were finished, Hiyori Sarakaki greeted Yizan with machine gun-like words. You bald man, do you have any opinion on me? It's really scary, Yizan said with emotion, and then shook his head very perfunctorily, no. What's your attitude? The irritable lowly Saraki Hiyori was instantly angry, and then took out her signature move, kicked the shoes on her feet, grabbed it, and then swung her arms round and slammed the slippers fiercely throw the fun over. When she threw the slippers, Yizan only thought of a classic sculpture, the discus thrower. Yizan shook his head amusingly, stretched out his hand to catch it and flew straight over, taking off his shoes with a powerful hidden weapon. Girl Tiger Kiba, don't you think that just such a broken shoe can hit me? You're the only one who broke your shoes. Your whole family has broken shoes. Tsuruuki Hiyori was so angry that he fell on his back, and the very embarrassed audiovisual teacher jumped up to Yizan, grabbed the shoes from his hand, put them on, and then pointed at Yizan. Zan's nose cursed. Tiger Kiba is my charm, bald man. I don't see it at all, little sister. Yishuani's pointed eyes swept across her unremarkable figure. I am wrong. It should be an old ant with stagnant growth.